Thank you, Councilmember Goldberg, for dropping that guide into the chat.
Mayor, I'm not sure if you're opening or if you want me to go ahead and get started.
Either way, I'm happy to open. Sorry, I was a couple minutes behind. I was in another meeting that ran over, but yeah, so this is orientation for incoming council and just a refresh generally, I would say, on roles and responsibilities of the elected body, what falls under staff, and then an orientation to different departments and what they do and how it all works together as a well-oiled machine. So I know, Stanley, you've been working on getting the agenda together, and I'll let you take it from here if that works.
Yes. And we're going to be using share screen. So Ned, I think we're ready for screen to come up. So good Thursday, Mayor, council members, community building team members, and neighbors. Hopefully they'll be joining. Welcome to this important session of orientation on City of Pine Lake operations. The community building team has been preparing for this session since last fall as we developed and dedicated a special section of the 2026 budget document along with operations guide, memorializing what we will verbally discuss with the City Council today. Last October, I asked each department director to prepare a special edition of their monthly produced strategic performance report that would offer a comprehensive look at the work that goes on behind the scenes daily. Now let's do some preliminary numbers for ground rules as we get started. We've reserved 4 hours of time that equates to 240 minutes with 6 speakers, 1 mayor, and 5 council members, whom I'm sure will have plenty of questions and comments as we go along. So what we have here is that adage of trying to fit a gallon of stuff into a quart jar. Therefore, we propose that each part of today's agenda, namely the department's presentations, be allotted 40 minutes with up to 20 minutes of prologue by each presenter and allowing 20 minutes for questions and commentary. Self-introductions will be given by each presenter as their respective time comes. So let's get started. I'm Stanley Hawthorne, City Manager of Pine Lake since January 1, 2025. I'd like to start with page 41A. The table of organization that I know you're well familiar with by now. It truly captures a picture that is worth 1,000 words. It is the essence of local government as it currently exists and operates within Pine Lake. Following the adoption of a new charter in which the prelude of the Legislative Act states the following: a bill to provide a new charter for the City of Pine Lake, approved April 4th, 1991, as amended so as to restate the city's charter, to change the corporate limits of such city, to transfer powers from the mayor to the city manager, and vest additional powers in the city manager, to provide for the mayor to vote in case of a tie, to provide for appointment and removal of department directors, to provide for elections, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. This most recent comprehensive update of the City of Pine Lake Charter was approved by the Governor of Georgia on May 6, 2024. The legislation known as Senate Bill 562 restated the city's charter to include several major changes. Form of government, officially transitioned the city from a mayor council to a council manager form of government. Powers, transferred administrative powers from the mayor to the city manager. The start of those 1,000 words are further captured on page 42 with the heading of organizational structure. And this document that we're following is the document that I asked you to bring as a part of the orientation session. It's the budget document itself. So page 42, Ned. So let me just repeat. The start of those 1,000 words given in the picture of the table of organization are further captured on this page with the heading of organizational structure. I'll only highlight what you can read more in detail on your own. But section 1.2a of the city's charter provides this city shall have all the powers of self-government. Section 2.10 states, the legislative authority of the government of this city shall be vested in a city council to be composed of a mayor and 5 council members. Section 2.28 provides for powers and duties of the city manager. So what are those powers and duties of the city manager? Again, the details of section 2.28 provide the answer. But let's start with the big picture as captured in the image featuring the roles of a generic chief executive officer on page 44. These are the core areas of my leadership and of the management style that I have sought to do my job most effectively. However, most importantly is the fulfillment of charter prescribed powers and duties of the city manager that deserve review in detail during this orientation. Some may even be surprising to the layperson or those less experienced in the council manager form of government adopted by Pine Lake. There are 13, beginning on page 45. I'm going to go over these in summation. 1, appoint, and when the city manager deems it necessary for the good of the city, suspend or remove any city employee and administrative officers of the city that the city manager appoints. 2, direct and supervise the administration and operation of all departments, offices, and agencies of the city. 3, shall serve as the director of administration or delegate such responsibility to any administrative officer under the city manager's supervision. 4, attend all council meetings except for closed meetings regarding the city manager. And we haven't had any closed meetings because I believe in open processes. And have the right to take part in discussion, but the city manager may not vote. 5, perform the general duties of finance as listed. This next one is particularly significant, a function ascribed to the city manager and not the city attorney, as one might presuppose. 6, see that all laws, provisions of this charter, and acts of the city council subject to enforcement by the city manager or by officers subject to the city manager's direction and supervision are faithfully executed. 7, prepare and submit to the city council a recommended operating budget and recommended capital budget. 8, submit to the city council and make available to the public, at least annually, a statement covering the financial condition of the city and a report on the administrative activities of the city as of the end of each fiscal year. We actually do the latter on a monthly basis in the form of the Strategic Performance Report presented for work sessions of the City Council. 9, make such other reports as the City Council may require concerning the operations of the city. 10, keep the City Council advised as to the financial condition and future needs of the city. 11, provide council with an organizational chart, the table of organization, that identifies all directors and the departments of city government that have been legally activated. 12, be responsible for the administration of court service operations, maintenance of municipal court records, and collection of fines as established by ordinance and state law. And 13, perform other such duties as are specified in this charter or as may be required by the City Council. Some other corollary points of the charter pertinent to roles worth discussing in this forum. If you will go to page 48, Ned. At the bottom, section 3.16 of the city charter that provides the city manager shall be responsible for the preparation of a position classification and pay plan, which shall be submitted to the City Council for approval. This provision did not come into play with the new charter. It has been there over time. This is an example of an omission covered by powers and duties number 6 that I just went over with you. Faithful execution of laws and the charter, and one that has been missed for many, many years. The lack of same left employees over many years with not even a basic job description or the scientific fair market value of their duties. Bold action by the previous council addressed this dereliction of duty. And finally, section 2.30, found on page 47, titled Council's Interference with the Administration. You'll see it on the communications between council and staff. It provides, except for the purpose of inquiries and investigations under section 2.15 of this charter, the City Council or its members shall deal with city officers and employees who are subject to the direction and supervision of the city manager solely through the city manager. And neither the City Council nor its members shall give orders to any such officer or employee, either publicly or privately. I would encourage you to read my philosophy on communications between council and staff, found in this page that's highlighted, and continuing over to page 48. Succinctly put, I try not to be a messenger between council and the real experts, namely directors. So, as you have questions or inquiries on individual operations, I support your reaching out directly to directors. I only ask that I be kept in the loop of communication, such as by copying me on emails. Finally, before questions and my handoff to the individual directors, let me introduce them collectively, as described on page 46. We are self-described by our mission to build community. We are the community building team, consisting of the city manager, department directors, and supporting staff who make up the administrative structure of the City of Pine Lake organization. We also have partners to the community building team through contracted functions that are vital to build sustainable community. These functions include, but are not limited to, planning and zoning, building, engineering, other agency service providers such as the county, for example, environmental services, and others. Our role as executors, and mine as chief administrative and executive officer, is to facilitate the organization's mission to build quality community. As such, the community building team's purpose rises above individual or siloed departmental responsibilities. Our approach must be collaborative and strategic to meet expectations in building the community most desired by the City Council and our neighbors. We now welcome your first round of questions, if any. Ned, I'm not seeing the full gallery. So I guess the best approach is a show of the image hands.
Yep. If anybody would like to ask a question, you can of course come off mute, or you can raise your hand. I do want to let you guys know, because I see that we have some public joining us. Unless Stanley would like to correct me, it's my understanding the purpose of this meeting is to allow for City Council to ask questions. If any residents have any questions related to this meeting, please feel free to reach out to us directly at City Hall, and we'd be happy to answer them. And so far, I've seen no questions and nobody come off mute. So that made me decide that we're ready to proceed.
Okay, very good. Let's proceed with the first department. And this one is a little bit different because of the dual roles that Mr. Dagenhart plays. He was recently appointed as the city clerk. That position reports directly to the city council, along with the city attorney and city manager. But he has many other responsibilities that puts him as the director of general government. And so he is the next presenter.
Yes, and my palms are soaked. Let's scroll up here. I want to start by jumping back to the organizational chart. And for any other future presenters, pay attention. That's why I mentioned the numbers at the bottom of the screen. That's where you're going to reference if you want me to scroll to a separate page or scroll back. I'm going to go ahead and hit my timer as well. Okay, so looking underneath my name down here, and paying attention that city clerk is also included in those roles, just not placed there on the organizational chart for reasons that Stanley just outlined, reporting, etc. Strategic communications, purchasing and contracts, administration, information resources, inspections and permits, and planning. A couple of those, as you can imagine, have a little bit of an overlap. Inspections and permits and planning tend to, because the former deals with the permitting process and following construction during construction of any buildings. Planning and zoning is obviously, maybe not obviously, but integrally involved in the preparation process ahead of a permit being approved. So that's kind of, I want to focus on those because my role, I talk about it as I have 4 or 5 different worlds that are in some ways kind of self-contained, but there's also collaboration involved with each of those worlds. Both with some of my fellow staff, communications is a good example of that. Chief Green and Director Kendrick are both kind of the on-the-ground directors related to their specific or respective departments. So we stay in communication, preparing any kind of newsletters and things like that. Planning and zoning and things like that, permitting, etc. That's where our contracted partners really come in. Building official, environmental inspector, and our zoning administrator. And I'll get more specific about those folks as we get to that section. So I did not prepare a script. I was preparing other things for this meeting, but I'm going to just kind of bullet point a few of these sections, and then I'll leave room for questions, and I'm happy to go back to any of these things. So looking at meeting management, I would say for both continuing council members and new council members, that's probably where we interface the most are things related to meeting management. So that involves agenda preparation, publication of the agenda and the packet that's compiled that contains supplemental materials, resolutions, backup documents, things like that. And then, of course, during the meeting, I'm clickety-clacketing my notes, which then become my action agenda and minutes that are published following the meeting. I sent a little kind of breakdown email to the governing authority recently that talked about what each of those documents is and the purpose of each of those documents, and then some of the kind of legal requirements related to some of those documents. Things like the action agenda, also known as action minutes, is a legally required document. Minutes are a legally required document. The agenda is a legally required document. The action item report that I prepare following a meeting that contains action items for the governing authority as well as staff. That's an internal, or it used to be internal, now it's public document that's not legally required. That's a Pine Lake thing. So that's the idea. It's all guided by the Open Meetings Act, also called, I think, referred to as the Georgia Sunshine Laws. Sunshine, of course, bringing up this idea that it kind of happens in the daylight. No smoky back rooms and things like that. Everything's public, including this meeting, right? Because we have a quorum present, an agenda was prepared and released to the public ahead of time. In the interest of time, I'm going to kind of scoot through these, but like I said, we'll have plenty of time to question. I'm glad to go back to anything. Record management, that's the other kind of side of the city clerk coin. This pertains to the Open Records Act and the Freedom of Information Act that lays out a bunch of guidelines for essentially, the casual layman way you can think, or layperson way that you can think of it is any document that's prepared by a government is a public document. Any document that's received by a government that is contained in any server or any banker's box or any email inbox or anything like that, if it at any point is in the possession of a government and it's not either proprietary, like some plan sets to talk about kind of the permitting process, or otherwise confidential, like medical records or financial records, everything else is public, fully public. There's a few other little asterisks in there. That's why for any open record requests and things like that, I always like to loop in the city attorney. He also, specifically Chris, seems to kind of enjoy the law around open record requests. So we get to work together on those, and I learn a lot by those kind of conversations. So,
and Ned, can I just add on this one? I want to give a real life example, which I guess I throw it in to make you aware that in the life of a city clerk, and Ned in this instance, it can be unpredictable. Over the past couple of weeks, probably every other day, we have been receiving a records request, which is pretty exhaustive. And in meeting these requirements, we don't have to recreate anything, but it can involve extensive research and pulling of records. And so we are probably up to 6 or 7 that I know, even though there's a timeline, a legal timeline that city clerk has to meet, he has had to push this off because of other issues. When it's all said and done, he has the ability, along with any other staff, to charge for any research time that is spent. But this is something that is just very seriously um, uh, done by the city according to legal statutes. But it can be exhaustive when we get records requests, and in this case, we don't know how much longer it's going to last. Is it a harassing thing, or we're not sure? But nonetheless, we have to meet the legal requirement.
Yep, that's exactly right. And just like violations of the Open Meetings Act, these things regularly lead to lawsuits around the country. So it's very serious. A quick little gist of how it works. Stanley mentioned the timeline related to open record requests. Within 3 business days, I'm required by law to respond to the request. I let them know that we've received it. I follow up with any kind of clarifying questions related to the request. Make sure that I'm only collecting exactly what they've asked for. And at that point, I have the ability, and this, thank God, I have the ability to anticipate how long it's going to take to collect that record, and relay that timeline to this individual. Now, of course, and I'd be talking out of the top of my head if I said where this limitation lies. I'm sure that I could not say, give us 8 months to get you that invoice, or whatever. But it's very defensible when I say it's going to take, you want all these documents from 4 or 5 years ago. That requires me maybe going off site to our storage facility or to the firehouse storage to go through documents for half a day, right? And so in order to find that time in the busy schedule that will be you'll be much more informed on in the sections that follow here. It takes some time to find that time, and I rely on our administrative support as well, but I have some control over that timeline. Okay. So that's the gist of records management. This is something that I hope to see us improve on in terms of storage of records. Pine Lake, in many ways, there's lots of things that are just a little bit outdated. It's not anyone's fault. It's just implementing new processes is a whole ordeal. And I can speak to that because I've been wanting to do this thing for, a while, and it's hard to find the time to, for example, digitalize all the city's records and put them into some sort of document storage and retrieval software, so that it doesn't take 9 days to find certain documents because they're in a banker's box in the firehouse. It can take potentially 10 minutes if I can go into it, some sort of server based software program. So we will get there, but it's going to take some time. Okay, communication. I'm going to kind of pick up the pace a little bit if I can. Communication, I think you're all pretty much familiar with where we're at in this process of building this sort of sub department. It started with staff taking over the News Blast, and being, trying to be a little bit more, I don't want to say creative, but engaging with graphics and things like that, and make it flow differently. That's a curve for me. It's not something I've done before. I'm enjoying it. The Kingfisher, things like that. It's fun. And then going forward, we're also going to be, I was looking these past couple days at social media presence for the city. As we've talked about before, any official social media account would not be for the sake of engaging back and forth with residents. It would just be for the sake of publishing official city communications in an easy to reach, Facebook-based format or Instagram-based format. These are apps that people are casually on. They might check their email once a day, hopefully. But something like Facebook, we know we can reach people a little bit quicker. It also has the ability for people to share those posts directly to the neighbor run. I know it's the administrators don't even live in Pine Lake, I believe, but the Pine Lake resident accounts, we still wave at our neighbors and things like that. I've recently joined both of those groups. I'm going to keep eyes on them, and that's going to inform the kinds of communications that we put out officially from the city.
Hey, Ned,
Sir.
let me give some comments on this, and I won't be doing this throughout the afternoon, but we did save some time on mine. I think I probably went 12 minutes, and then there were no questions or comments, so we're good. Strategic communications is very important. One of the first things that I discovered in looking at the prior council's retreat planning, and it absolutely stood out like a sore throat, but or a sore thumb in a good way. And that was the council's emphasis on communications to the community. And I will tell you that I believe in communications and I believe in strategic communications. And so it troubled me for probably the first 10 months that I was here that we relied upon the council for communications, including the news blast and other things. And the council had adopted a communications policy covering these various sections and what we needed to get into. And it took some of the restructuring. And I'll use this quick example. Ned used to have to take a day of his time almost with the preparation for court proceedings. So on top of all of the other hats that he wore, and after I discovered his talent for communicating, just one of the best that I've seen in all honesty, as far as writing and even his verbal skills and ability to make people feel comfortable. And so I evaluated early on, I need him in that role. I've brought strategic communications to probably every organization that I've managed in the last 20 years. And Pine Lake is small, but I just did not see that it was conducive for the council to continue to carry on that role for as well as they had done it. Our mayor pro tem of the past and now our current mayor pro tem who took on that role. So the work that you see Ned doing with strategic communications, even now getting into the social media, which is required according to our communications policy, this is all extra. So everything that he is going over, the importance of strategic communications is just one of those new duties that has fallen upon him. And I want to recognize him for the excellence that he brings to the table. We've got a long way to go to grow, but I couldn't be any more pleased than what he has done in the last couple of months in taking over that responsibility.
Very kind words to hear. I do like writing and talking to people, not groups, as the color of my cheeks are probably showing. So that I think that summarizes communications well. Another kind of thing, kind of like record management practices, that's on the radar for this, whatever we want to call it, kind of sub department of general government, is working with media outlets. This is a real hurdle. And I've learned why recently, communicating with Decatur-ish and finding that even though they actively report on the 12 other cities in DeKalb County, when I asked them why Pine Lake has such a coverage deficit compared to those other cities, they told me that they dispatch reporters based on economic activity. So that was kind of a gutting thing to hear. And it also kind of annoyed me because, I know we all have our own kind of philosophy about about the media and the purpose of the media and things like that. But to me, the two don't necessarily go hand in hand. That economic activity should generate media coverage was kind of a annoying thing to hear at the very least. But we're going to continue to work on it. I'm hoping that if I can go to them with specific events, starting with, we have State of the City coming up soon, TBD, and the pollination celebration in April, also TBD, Arbor Day, etc. Hopefully, we can target some events and get some coverage. Because as you will notice, they cover Lakefest occasionally, like every other year or something like that.
And
Okay.
Ed, did you mention website redevelopment that you're
Oh,
in the
sure.
middle of working with Civic Plus as well
Yeah,
as the agenda?
I can touch on that real quick. So the agenda, there's two new products, I guess you could say, that we've recently purchased through Civic Plus. Civic Plus currently manages our online ordinance library. I'll also, quick diversion. Our ordinances are a bit out of date. Me and Missy, mainly Missy, has been working on creating a kind of a directory of what are we missing, what do we have, what are we missing, and then we're gonna go through, make sure that we have all of those documents and that they're signed, etc. And then those and the new charter are being relayed to Municode. One small little speed bump there is Municode is asking for our account number related to, or Civic Plus is asking for our Municode account number. I don't have access to that number, so I've turned the question back to them, seeing if they're able to guide me through that process. So, barring those couple of steps, we're looking to update that library soon. Done with that diversion, back to Civic Plus. Two other products we have with them now are the agenda management module and a website. The agenda management module, that process started first. And I very naively, back when these two products were purchased, assumed that the Civic Plus timeline for implementing these new programs for us was going to be the longest timeline considered, and that if they said they could have all this done by December, then we would have it all done by December. Not thinking of the fact that I would be the one who would have to work with them. I kind of, again, ignorantly thought it would be maybe an hour here, hour there, 20-minute tutorial video, and we go live. That's not how it is. I just wrapped up the agenda management module training, which consisted of 45-minute to 2-hour trainings about every week or every other week since November, October. So we're starting to hit my timer, but I know that Stanley said we gained some back, so I'm gonna go and I'm gonna speed it up a little bit. But the website is now, we're starting that too. They've sent me a sample of the website. I got to go through my trainings for that. I'm looking to go live with the agenda management module, sort of a demo for the agenda on the 10th. We might, I think, in the interest of the learning curve for all of us, myself included, we'll sort of parallel. So I'll have the option to use what will be your individual Civic Plus portals. They refer to council members as quote unquote board members. So you'll have your own board member portal and account. You can go in and play around with all the fun stuff that the agenda management module offers. In short, it's a much more sophisticated way to view the agenda document. You can quickly go into items, take margin notes, and all that kind of fun stuff. We're also going to still do the paper copy, original style of the agenda. Hopefully by the end of February or early March, we can migrate completely over to Civic Plus's agenda management module. May time out well with my trainings for the website, but I'm done making promises in terms of when that stuff will go live. I'm going to wait until I can actually see the light at the end of the tunnel with those trainings. So
Ned,
purchasing,
just to give you some comfort, because I know you're conscious of time,
yes.
But you're only 5 minutes into your 20 minutes based on when we started and the shortcut of the city manager's session.
Okay, good deal.
So you've got a good 15 minutes. You don't have to take it all, but you don't have to feel rushed.
Okay, great. If it's all right, I'm going to quickly set I'll do a 12-minute timer so I can, if I hit it, I can have time to wrap it up quickly. Okay, so not 2012. Thank you. Cool. Okay. Purchasing. My role as purchasing agent. I approve all purchases for the city that fall under a specific threshold. I always consult section 2626 of the city's code of ordinances, which outlines those thresholds, because I don't trust myself to remember them off the top of my head. And we seldom make purchases that are nearing that threshold. Most of the purchases made by City Hall are petty purchases, as they would probably be concerned by other agencies. I'm concerned about every penny. I want you guys to all know that. I'm the resident, I don't know what you want to call me. I'm a little thrifty. So sometimes I'll see something and be like, oh, is that what we have to pay for that thing? And often it is, and often it's not very expensive anyway.
Yes,
But
I'll echo that. He's very thrifty, but in a good way.
yeah, in a good way, and sometimes not a great way. This jacket doesn't fit very well, for example. But yeah, so that's my role with purchasing.
Yeah,
Directors
let me give a
sure,
little background because
please.
I probably feel more of a responsibility to talk on some of Ned's areas because when we say general government, that's essentially what has traditionally been called administration. And one of the things that I discovered when I started, and I believe it was the very first staff meeting that we had with the community building team, and I had started to do my research, and like Ned says, a lot of our ordinances are outdated or maybe not even codified yet. So I wasn't sure if I was even reading the latest copy of the chapter in the Code of Ordinances that deals with purchasing. And purchasing, as you know, is a very critical area. And I have been getting a sense, even though no council members have come to me directly, but I gather that there's probably some chatter in the community about our purchasing process. And our purchasing process isn't all that it needs to be. But I will tell you that starting with the Code of Ordinances, there are certain internal controls that are put into place if we are properly executing the laws. And I'll remind you of what I said, number 6 of the manager's duties, which I take very seriously. By Code of Ordinances, the city clerk is identified as the purchasing agent for the city and is given the direction to work with the departments. So while departments, we are decentralized, take some lead, there are checks in the system. And now that we have finance experts, which we did not have before, they are further check into the system. I want to give some assurance. Doesn't mean that we're ever perfect, and Pine Lake has a long way to grow, even as Ned continues to grow in this part of his job. Um, if there were things going on, we're not guaranteed that everything will be caught. But you start from the place of Pine Lake having professionals, and that's really what the city manager and council form of government means, that it's not necessarily an elected person who is the chief administrative and executive officer, but it is a professional who has been trained. And that is intended to build a certain level of trust along with the internal controls that are in place. And then we have some of our partners, such as our auditors, that come in and they go over it. They don't get to check everything, but they know how to go in and check key areas for any potential issues that may be an issue. One of the reasons that I've insisted that the city attorney play a regular role in preparing resolutions for almost every item is from a legal standpoint, when we're bringing things to the city council, including purchases, that it has met that legal test as well as financial tests of recommendations to the council. But again, with emphasis, this very critical area of purchasing, this extra hat that the city clerk wears, those responsibilities are ultimately given to the purchasing agent, who is to check in the system on departmental purchases.
Yeah. So that's purchasing in a nutshell. It's part of my job. It's under my it's one of my roles. It's something that we take very seriously, as Stanley outlined. But that's the gist of it. So I'm gonna, in the interest of time, move on to, because there's some denser topics ahead. So information resources. This is IT stuff. It's wild because I don't consider myself very digitally savvy, but it's my role here. It's kind of an IT liaison. Our contracted partner here is VC3, previously Sufficity, back in the day. But they are they're what you would imagine from kind of a help ticket outsourced VC or IT company. We work with them for any equipment purchases, for equipment that would be covered by them, so things like computers and so forth, and anything that anybody needs within the organization related to tech. I'm either the the touchstone for that, or I'm at least involved in that conversation. My limited troubleshooting knowledge sometimes is helpful for avoiding a help ticket. There is something, there's a level of distance, I think, that has to be expected when you contract out a service like IT. It's almost, it's like contracting out like a first aid kit or something. You would love, obviously, to have it right there in the cupboard, but if you got to go somewhere to get it, you're going to obviously expect to bleed a bit before you can bandage yourself up. So
it's essentially the IT function that Ned supervises, and he does bring to the table. He may not be an expert, but he is somewhat. We kind of kid with him. His name is Ned, and Missy totally unwittingly one day sent him an email and addressed it to Nerd. So as you can imagine, we had a lot of fun with it. So he is our technical nerd. To give you an example, today my camera or audio on my desktop computer weren't working. Now, I already had Ned busy with other stuff, including coordinating for this meeting, but he was the go-to person that I had to go to, along with Missy, who had to get on the phone with our IT staff working remotely.
Yeah, and when it worked out, it's great. But of course, I'm not. I wouldn't call myself an IT professional by any means. I think the elephant in the room is I'm 28 years old. So I kind of came up with a lot of this technology. I think there's just some familiarity with some of these things that comes with that. And recently being, in environments like this, I worked in political campaigns and things like that, very techy world where you're near people that know a lot more about this stuff than I do.
And then before you get into your next area, I want to make sure that we've covered all of the administration areas. Awareness and education of all that you do is very important to me. But he's also the human resources administrator, so to speak. So new employees, as they are orientated in all of the paperwork and governmental records that have to be fulfilled, and benefits processing, again, working with the contracted partner. We sent a communication out last week because he had some concerns with some changes that people were making on their direct deposits that were causing pay issues. So at any given time, just an abundance of hats of a transactional nature that he's having to take care of.
Yep, that's one kind of area that was left off of the organizational chart. it was my own, error in leaving it off. But human resources. So as the city manager just said, anything related to retirement benefits, onboarding, offboarding, personnel file management stuff, payroll, that all goes through me as well. Inspections and permits. This might be my favorite area. This is really interesting stuff. And it tends to be a long process for any individual, depending on, sometimes it can be very short, fence permits, for example, but oftentimes it tends to be a drawn out process. And so, like with any kind of longer term project, you get that like really exciting level of satisfaction when something kind of reaches its where you kind of hand the process off to the construction people or whatever, and it's like, hey, cool, got to do all this and learn all this stuff along the way. Zoning and planning was always like my favorite area subject in my public policy undergrad. So this is cool that I get to do this at all. Is kind of a falling backwards into it kind of thing. I'll go through real quickly kind of the journey. I use that. I recommend, I think everybody who's going to present would, that you guys read this document if you haven't already, just because there's some more detailed stuff here than I'm going to be able to talk about. But in essence, if you follow a brand new build, and there's, let's say it's an undeveloped lot, so there's trees on there, because that's important because we have a pretty robust tree protection ordinance. It's a little, there's issues with it, as Councilmember Goldberg is aware, and we're going to probably be reworking that in the near future, but it is fairly robust. And so if there's trees on a property that's involved, that's why I give that example, so that we can kind of involve all of our partners here. So first step would be zoning. There's some basic stuff that I'm comfortable communicating. That's my timer. I better speed up. There's some basic stuff I'm comfortable communicating relating to zoning because it's codified, and so it's easily accessible. So things like that would be setbacks for a residential property, or permitted uses within the commercial area to some degree. Asterisk there. Sometimes questions can get a little confusing. We, for example, prohibit light manufacturing. So what do we do when somebody wants to say, not that this has come up, but make pottery for a retail sale? Would that be considered a retail establishment, or is that considered a light manufacturing establishment because they have a workspace and a kiln in the back? That would be a really funky question for our zoning administrator to answer. His name is Bill Johnston. His firm is Zoning Mechanics. He's out of Griffin, Georgia. The city's worked with him for a really long time. And he also does some work with Lithonia and some other neighboring cities. He's a joy of a guy. I talked to him very candidly at this point on the phone. He knows I'm interested in this world of stuff. So he, and I can say this about a lot of our other contracted partners, bestows education every time he gets an opportunity to. So that's that step. We clear zoning, we move on to looking at the lot, things like tree removal and things like that. There's usually a site visit by our environmental inspector. Erosion, sedimentation, and pollution control, ES and PC. Inspector Amanda Core Russell. So she's looking at the proximity the lot has to a stream. Does it fall within a 200-foot state regulated stream buffer? If it does, then all these plans that come forward are going to need to be reviewed by the Georgia Stormwater Conservation Commission. If there's trees on the lot, you can't build within the critical root zone of those trees, which is 1.25 feet for every inch of diameter of the tree. So there's all these different things that come into that. If somebody needs to build a tree plan because they're removing too many trees, and it makes our contracted partner, Alex Phillips, with Canopy Consultants, nervous because it's reducing their canopy coverage calculation, we're going to have them, or their arborists that they contract, create a site tree conservation plan, STCP, a replacement strategy. So there's that step that needs to be checked. Then we can move on to their utility permits that they get through the county. That just is capacity approvals. If they're going to be installing a bud onto the sewer line, then the county needs to know about it, and the county needs to let them know whether or not that's going to be even something they can do. And capacity, do they have the capacity for that increased volume, if you will? And then we get to the building official does a plan review on the engineered plans for that building, make sure that it's safe and it aligns with the International Building Code and all that fun stuff. Amanda comes back, does another site visit, make sure that those individuals have somebody doing the project has what's called a 1A blue card. That's basically says that they've taken an 8-hour course on erosion control best practices, and some, basic things related to that. That's things like you can't leave a pile of dirt on the property without it covering it with a tarp. If you're going to be disturbing ground, which they almost always are because it's a new house, then you have to put silt fencing around to keep the ground from washing into the street, things like that. You can't illicitly discharge anything. So that's like concrete laced water needs to go into a concrete washout and be hauled off site because it's highly basic and it'll poison all the ground. So it's like things like that. So that's what Amanda does. She's awesome. She's like an environment cop kind of thing. Also a treat to work with, and definitely does not bend when it comes to that stuff, which I know aligns with Pine Lake philosophy. It also aligns with the state law. So it's not like she does it out of any unique philosophy that she holds. Licensing, moving on from land use, is that's the season we're in now. There's some seasonal stuff related to the stuff that I do. This is business licenses, alcohol licenses, renewals, new licenses. Last year we had a new alcohol license, so they had to file their application. We scheduled public hearings, or a public hearing rather, gave the public the opportunity to speak for or against the license. Nobody did. This was an existing business that just had let their license lapse, so they had to get a new one. It's Silver's Caribbean. They're looking to open soon in the former Mango's lot under new management, better management, hopefully. And yeah, this is business license renewal season, as you may have seen in a news blast some weeks back. So we're getting a lot of new applications through. I say we, it's me. Missy helps a lot. But that's when I say we, it's to make it sound like this office is like staffed with all these people, all this, but yeah, so that's where we're at now. There's some stuff I could talk about when it comes to like occupancy permits. If somebody wants to establish a business, or they're changing ownership of a business, that's happening next door with the daycare right now, actually. They have to get a series of waivers or inspections from the building official, our building official, and then DeKalb County Watershed and Department of the Fire Marshal's office. So that contains, if they're doing any renovations, building official has to make sure those renovations aren't going to impact the safety of the building, and approve those plans just like they would back in the permitting process that I just talked about. And then they have to inspect if there's a fats, oil, grease device, there's a commercial kitchen grease trap. They have to inspect what's called a backflow device. It's an external device that goes on the main line next to the meter, that keeps nasty water from making its way into your drinking water. And then there's also the fire marshal inspection. That's the occupancy inspection that you usually see behind the counter in the restaurant. Says like, we can safely hold 51 people in here because we have tables and stuff like that. So the fire marshal wants to see, are there obstructions that would impact somebody being able to get out of this building quickly? Is it a standing room kind of building? Are people seated? All those kinds of things that they're considering. They're also looking for an active inspected fire extinguisher. And if there's any kind of things that would necessitate a sprinkler system, or a vent or anything like that above a kitchen, they're also looking at that stuff. And then they get their fire marshal approval, and then they're able to proceed with occupancy. They're building. That's my stuff. I'm a little over time, I think, but of course, time for questions if anybody has any.
I have two very brief questions, please. Fun fact about me, I have a brain injury, so sometimes like names and like things that sound similar are hard for me to absorb. So what you said in the beginning of the agenda, the minutes, the action agenda are legally required. right?
Yes.
What is the one that's like specific to Pine Lake that y'all have started doing?
Right. That's the acronym didn't really catch on the AIR,
Okay.
AIR, but the action item report.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's it's a list. It's what it sounds like. It's a list of action items.
Yeah.
Yeah. Directed
Okay.
towards staff.
I'm just trying to get my terms correct.
Oh, sure.
And then my other quick question, and this doesn't have to be in this moment, but just if you could send me or all of us, I would love to know more about the residential, village, commercial, and transitional zoning districts.
Oh yeah. We could talk.
So, you know,
We might
your call,
be-
because I see Thomas has his hand raised, and you know, I want to be mindful about time. But just a
Okay.
request for more info.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we should have a published zoning map. I believe it's on the website somewhere too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love that.
There's some issues
Amazing.
with GIS communication. DeKalb, there's all sorts of things that DeKalb does well. They're few. But one of the difficult things is like communicating with their GIS, which I think is Bernard could tell me what that acronym stands for. Something information services, infographic, something mapping. And they haven't really, their map doesn't align with our annexations we did a couple years ago. So the Gaptooth and Dean's Market are not included in their map of what Pine Lake is. Some like Georgia Tech student reached out to me last year and wanted to update our zoning map for us. And I was like, sure, here's the information. And then they sent me a little map. So it's not interactive. It's not like a GIS system, but it at least shows those boundaries. I'd be happy to share that and talk more about what those districts, the purpose of those districts and things like
Yeah.
that as well.
Thank you.
Councilmember Torrent?
Hi, yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and apologize for my lag. It's disorienting to me. My computer just hates Zoom. So sorry, don't look at my face. Two quick questions. The records that you were talking about that are in bankers' boxes, you're talking about like getting those digitized.
Yeah.
Is there any way to incorporate like volunteer help to get that done quicker?
Sure. So in order for the records to be viewed, I would need to be present. So if I'm able to organize a time to do that, then I would love to, and I would definitely welcome the help. You know, so long as it's mission driven, that we're digitalizing and archiving records, and not flipping through them or whatever, just looking at them, which is totally cool too. We can schedule time if anybody wants to do that at any point. They're more than welcome to do so. I just have to be there, so it'd have to be like an appointment thing. But yeah, we talked about the end of last year. It's unfortunate. There's so many things that we want to do, and it's like Stanley said, it's like fitting a gallon in a quart kind of thing. Like, so these are things we're going to do, and it's definitely like on our list of goals. But it's like just figuring out how to fit them into the day. So one of those things is GMA and DeKalb County had a partnership for like an internship program, where they would look at people who are involved in policy programs, or have an interest in working in government, and they would pay their wage, and place them with a municipality that like has a spot for them. So in my mind, I thought, oh, cool, maybe I could like have this intern and I buy them lunch and tell them to bring their headphones, and they could just sit there in the record room and just scan stuff and archive it just generally based on whatever that box is labeled as, assuming that the label is accurate to what's inside, where it says, 2008 plans, and then they can, send it on in and label it 2008 plans. And then I can go through and more meticulously, develop that digital archive once everything's actually there. But yeah, to answer your question, there's definitely opportunity for.
Great. We've had a number of community members that have volunteered or offered to help do that. I personally would love to be a part of it. That's just the kind of nerdery that I really love doing. So yeah, let's talk more about that.
Definitely. It's a gloves and face mask endeavor, as a heads up.
Love it. And then going back to you were talking about records that were being FOIA'd. The amount of time that it takes to like go back and get those records, would it make more sense or any sense to have those available before or like earlier given out to council and the public? Does that make sense?
I'm I'm sure it does, but I'm not following.
Okay, so I don't know what you're being asked to find.
Mhm.
Um, but if there's like a common thread of people want to see, I don't know, permits,
Yeah.
would it be possible to have those provided before a thing is?
So I'm gonna I think I'll answer your question by describing the open record request kind of process. So what this is not generating new documents. This is what here's an example. Somebody reaches out and says, I would like to see all of the I'll use a I'll use a very topical example. I want to see all the invoices related to the contractors who were associated with the dam remediation project. And so I go and I pull those invoices from our accounts payable file. Any other documents that they might want, I'll also pull and then scan them and send them to that person. And if it took less than 15 minutes and that person is cool with having it digitally transmitted to them, then it's free. If it takes me an hour, then it's 45 minutes of my hourly rate, taking that down to what, break it down to 2,080 hours a year. And what would my hourly rate be, even though I'm salaried? They have to pay that. And if they want a physical copy, it's 10 cents per page. So I said all that to say there's not really, by nature of how the request works and the process, there isn't a way to prepare for a request. The best preparation we could do is good record keeping practices. So, for example, as we digitalize everything or digitize, I'm not sure which is the right word. It's going to be a lot easier to fulfill any record request because we can search some of these programs like Laserfish. Also, our printer company, EGP, has their own kind of document search program that they pitched to me last year. And you search by keyword. There's a document reader, so I could search, a contractor's name, and it would pull up automatically every invoice that's ever gone into that Laserfish or whatever program. So that'd be a lot quicker than going back to the finance office and pulling out the folder labeled whatever name and knowing, okay, this is looking at the resolution. Here's the contractors listed. Let me pull all these and unstaple them, scan them in, all that stuff. That whole process often just takes a few minutes. If I have to go on site, it's a different thing. And if the documents were archived some years ago, then it's a whole other thing. Because as you know, up until a few years ago, archiving practices in Pine Lake were, were where they were in Phil Howland's basement or whatever.
Thanks, Ed. That was exactly what I wanted. Just to follow up then, and I don't understand the legality of this part, but having that, would that be publicly available, this database, or would they legally still need to go through you for publicly available documents? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. That's a good question. I'm not sure if I would want to ask some fellow clerks because we don't use Laserfish or anything like that. That's an example. That's the most kind of prolific one. There may be like a public search portal.
Yeah, let me help out with this. Let me help out with this one, Ed.
Sure.
There are and just keeping it on financial documents and records. There's not much that we do that isn't or shouldn't be available to the public. We're protected in not having to prepare things that don't exist. But there are financial systems, and let's just use purchasing as an example, um, that that cater to these types of requests that would be online already, and just would require a user to go in and search for whatever it is that they're looking for. And so while we have a system now with our enterprise resource plan, our ERP, I think I had informed you that um, many of those modules haven't even been activated. We didn't even know about until our new finance team came on, and one of those is specific to purchasing. So the short answer to your question, Councilmember Torrent, is yes, the public has the right to have not only access, but if we were able to provide it, where they could go on our website as an example and navigate into it themselves. And those systems are available. They may or may not be available in our ERP system, but like I said, we still have a ways to go to even implement it.
Great, thank you. I'm just trying to help you spend less time when you could be doing so much more, and just kind of taking you out of the equation. And I don't know what the line of being legally responsible is. So
I appreciate it. I'm happy to do it, and it's certainly a core aspect of what a city clerk does. So I'm happy to keep it what it needs to be, but definitely, like with all of this stuff, I'm also interested in ways that we can be more efficient.
And so Ned, we are at 150 now. So
Yeah.
let's see what other questions we have from council members, and we're pretty much on schedule for the time being, but we do have some time for questions. And
Any other questions?
if not, we'll move on to Public Works, and you can come back. So as these sessions open up, if you think of something for one session that you still want to ask, you're welcome to do that. But we're right on schedule. We'll move to Public Works, and Mr. Kendrick, we'll still be on schedule if at 2:30 we're done.
Hopefully. Good afternoon, everybody. GIS, Ned, stands for Geographical Information Systems.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I'm Bernard, Public Works Director, and you're going to put it up on the screen, Ned? Yeah, this is a picture of Mayor and Council and myself during the bridge openings for the pedestrian bridges back last year. So you could go forward. And just toying around with a little logo. Okay, the Public Works Department consists of myself, administrative assistant, Ms. Danita Robinson. She wears several hats. Not only is she new to the administrative assistant role, but she's also the facilities manager, and she also provides cleaning services on a contractual basis for the city of all of our buildings. Public Works, as you know, we're responsible for a wide range of things, administering and managing all capital projects, and from implementation through construction, coordinating and assuring compliance with regulations. That includes environmental regulations and building codes, preparation of reports and communication. Some of those reports that we do are related to some environmental reports like the MS4 reporting, where that's a collaborative effort between, Ned mentioned one of our contract partners, Amanda, who pretty much gathers those that information. We do assist because there is some field work involved with some of that reporting. Also, that report has a component for water quality testing, but that's mainly for Snapfinger Creek as it comes into our municipal boundaries. Also, we do some stormwater management. That is also wrapped up into the MS4, and that goes toward what she does as far as land development inspections and erosion and sedimentation control inspections. The city does through erosion and sedimentation control. The city is the state calls a local issuing authority that gives us a right for certain developments or land developments under a certain threshold that we can approve those types of land disturbance activities. I am a certified ENS inspector and reviewer. So I'm designated by the state as the quote unquote local issuing authority. We also do some reporting as far as the LMIG program. What is that is a GDOT program, was the local maintenance improvement grant that helps that program funnels money to municipalities and counties for any type of road-related improvements. We're on the verge of applying for the 2026 grant to receive those monies. We're also, Public Works is involved in emergency management preparation as far as, storm preparation or after the storm has passed, recovery efforts. We do that in conjunction with the Chief Green and the Pine Lake Police Department, and then also in conjunction with DEMA, which is the DeKalb County Emergency Management Association, and GEMA, which is the State of Georgia Emergency Management Association. Some of the other activities that related to water quality is that we're responsible for doing the testing for the swim area on a weekly basis at the beach. That we provide the monitoring services for those to ensure that the swim area is safe for swimming. There's a threshold of 200 milligrams per liter that we allow for swimmers to enter the waters. If it exceeds that, we'll close the area. I think last year we had 2 weeks of exceedances, so we didn't have swim season. I think it opened a little late. This past year, I don't believe we had any exceedances that prohibited any swimming. You can go to the next there. Also, as you know, we have, as Ned specified, we do have partners that help us. AECOM is our engineering partners. They provide with engineered design services related to any type of engineering projects that we put out as for capital type projects. Related to more specifically now to our wetlands, the lake, the dam, the green space master plan, and we'll circle back and talk about those a little later. Go ahead, Ned. Primarily field operations. We've got a full-time position, which is Eric Dickerson, and we have a part-time position. Josh is no longer with us in that Josh Fortune is no longer with us in that part-time position. We have a new part-time person. His name is Frederick Avery. Their primary duties are responsible for street maintenance, mowing, trimming, and those types of things, anything related to street maintenance, parks and grounds maintenance, and just changing light bulbs or those types of things in our buildings. Go ahead, Ned. The maintenance for city utility poles. That's administered through Georgia Power. We are a Georgia Power community. So if it's anything goes wrong with street lights or power poles, transformers, down power lines, those types of things, our first contact is to Georgia Power. Georgia Power has gotten extremely better in storm response uh, because they've, created their own emergency management center. So even if your power goes out, they've got to the point now that they already know that your power is out, that you really don't even have to call in. If you can access, and I think it's a good idea that we pass along to residents that um, they bookmark the Georgia Power outage map, and it'll show in real time where the outages are. And I think this last storm we had, when I looked, we had 5 outages in Pine Lake, and I think they were resolved within 30 minutes. So it is a real-time tool that's useful for residents, just so that they know where we stand as far as power outages. Solid waste management, which is garbage pickup and recycling, that's handled to DeKalb County Sanitation. They typically pick up our area on Wednesdays. The recycling, as of late, has kind of been sporadic and hit and miss. That is, manpower issues, maintenance issues that normally keep them from, doing the recycling effort. Also, they have a specific holiday calendar that they go by. So sometimes it's, during a holiday, they'll push collection back a day. But I've noticed lately we've gotten several complaints about recycling pickup. Residents normally they do shoot those emails to Ned, or I get them and we'll report them to DeKalb County Sanitation. But residents can also, report them directly to, I think it's 311, and it goes, or send an email to DeKalb County Sanitation. They usually resolve those issues quite quickly. You can go to next, Ned. Fleet maintenance. We've kind of reduced the size of, our fleet. Well, actually, I'm two different things here, not equipment, fleet. Our fleet, we've currently got 4 vehicles in our fleet. That's a golf cart, a light pickup truck, what we just purchased last year, that became more functional for our department. We do have 2 larger vehicles, a F-350 that's approximately 10 years old, serviceable. And then we have a 1997 F-350 that is tasked with pulling the leaf blower. Just recently, the motor blew out on that. So we're got some estimates for a replacement engine. We did do a condition assessment about a year and a half ago where we looked at all of our equipment and, small tools included. And there was quite a bit of equipment that was outdated or non-serviceable that we did put out for a surplus. And we did make about $20,000 on that. And we reallocated that through the Public Works Department for this budget year. So we think we got the equipment that we need to do the work we need. We just need to look at that replacing the engine in that other vehicle. You can go forward, Ned. Facilities management, we did do about a year and a half ago a condition assessment on all of our buildings. We have about nearly between 9 and 10,000 roughly square feet of buildings that we own and operate and maintain and work out of it. Um, so as I said, Ms. Robinson, two of those buildings are for rentals, the clubhouse and the beach house. She schedules those rentals with outside organizations, various different people for weddings, receptions, and so forth. Some of those buildings are used by our neighbors. They have yoga classes, karate classes, meetings, group meetings, and those types of things. So those buildings are maintained so that we can have those types of activities. There is a small bit of revenue that's generated through the rental process, and she also makes sure that those buildings are clean and presentable for those activities that occurred there. Go ahead, Ned. So over the past year, the operational highlights, as you know, we did some renovations to the city hall. You go ahead, Ned. If you haven't seen them, please visit. To the clubhouse, we did those. Those that came to the Christmas event were, aware of those. Keep going there. There was a long-standing capital project that was on the books probably for the last 5 years on Oak Road. We did get that completed, and I think that turned out quite nice. Keep going. The tennis complex was converted over to, a multi-use tennis pickleball facility, and we continue to operate that. Going forward, 2026, we just want to continue to get better with our, operational efficiencies, develop standard operating procedures for, maintenance goals and those types of things. Bring back fully develop our level of service for all facilities. That includes the wetlands, the lakes, the buildings, the courts, everything that's involved in daily operations around the entire city. And also, we'll hear more about, at our set aside meetings about, what's going on with the wetlands and the lake strategies. Go ahead, Ned. And for the 2026 priorities, once again, finalize a wetland strategy, seize on all grant opportunities that we can. One of those other things is that I'm hearing about is that the conservancies, we're really, residents have really expressed the interest in moving forward with that. And I'm going to make sure we put those things in place. We want to look at, once again, what the season grant opportunities, take the opportunity to upgrade our playground equipment, wayfinding, signage. I know previously, the previous council had some indications or some interest in improving like our signage for the banners and those types of things. Some of the like monument signage out on Rockbridge Road. We've already made preparations for next year that we would be moving Christmas lights out onto Rockbridge Road, and so that we can kind of put our stamp on our little corridor to make it everybody note that we are or they are traveling in Pine Lake. And that'll be, like Ned said, all of this is kind of cohesive with other endeavors with the downtown development and commercial corridor improvements. And that's a poem that I like that, in times when you're Invictus, he kind of pep you up. So I'm pretty sure y'all familiar with that. It's kind of apropos at this stage of the game today. I'll entertain any questions that everybody might have at this time related to my area of the kingdom. Oh, go ahead, Ms. Flowers.
Hello. I'm going to ask some questions that are some of the ones that I know I hear wandering around the lake and running into neighbors. Some of them I've even heard answers to from you before, but I'd like everybody to hear them so that we all know what the answers are. Starting with the streets. We did some substantial paving work last year, but I understand there are some factors like sewer lines that influence whether and how it's a good idea to spend money paving other streets. Like I drive up Iris, it's super bumpy, but elaborate on like what it would take to be able to finish the paving work.
Okay. Yeah, there's several streets that we've identified. And let me back up and say, uh, like everything happened, about a year and a half ago. We did an inventory of all the streets, and basically what we found was when you go down to any street, there's two different things that are happening. Some of them are you see these large cutouts on the side where um, they did either a meter installation or a sewer line installation to the buildings. And that some of those got dips in it and those types of things. So those are creating the issue. And then also you see where you go down the center line, you'll see where they're collapsing. And the most prominent one, if you're on Park, um, right there, I think it's Grove and Park, right in that area, is the most pronounced one. The ones in the center line, are believed to be sewer line collapses. DeKalb County watershed is responsible for sewer lines. If we were to go in and simply, uh, you know, dig that out and pack that back in and get it off to grade and then pave and not do the underlying work, then it would be our responsibility if something did, further damage the sewer. So we've made a list and submitted it to DeKalb County, basically outlining that very issue. Said we see all of these center line damage, which we basically think is collapsing sewer lines. We'd like you to come out, do an inspection, and verify that, and give us a time frame for when you would anticipate getting those fixed. To date, they really haven't provided any information. We've had, I think the former mayor pro tem has had an audience with the incoming or the new CEO and brought that up. I believe Council Member Goldberg has had a meeting with one of the commissioners and brought that up. So we've continued, we pushed that forward to the appropriate authority, and we just haven't had anything. I've been told that they've created work orders for the issues, but like I said, to date, it's almost like if it's not weekly, it's every other week that I make contact with my counterpart asking about the status of those types of things. Some of the other issues that I spoke with about the cutouts, we've got aging water lines, and they're mainly 2-inch water lines that service the homes in Pine Lake. As I've been told that those lines have been slated previously for approved upgrades, but they just never moved them off the board. And like I said, those are some of the things that we continually talk to our counterparts at the county about, getting us a schedule in order so that we can let the mayor, council, and the residents know when they could seek those approval. We've got, as for instance, I believe it's Hemlock that over the last 2 years, there's several water leaks, and most recently, about 2 weeks ago, that same 2-inch water line has broken. and they've come out and fixed it, but they're just doing spot repairs. And I believe it's about nearly a month ago, doing one of those repairs, they hit a gas main and had a gas leak. So, uh, you know, we've put the information to them, but it's, just DeKalb County has not moved it forward yet.
Well, thank you. Next question. I'm just, if it's okay, I'll just keep going with a couple more. What are the barriers right now to being able to use the pig pen to clean up the leaf litter that's kind of self-mulching on the sides of the streets?
As I just indicated, we need a motor in that vehicle. That's the only vehicle that can accommodate pulling the leaf vac and containing the leaves. So what we've been doing over this past season is just utilizing blowers and hand picking the leaves up as best we can. Over the next couple of weeks, that's all we're really going to be doing is, just blowing leaves and picking them up. And we had begun to augment the pickup of those leaves when the council approved the street sweeping program. We did go through and sweep the streets last year, but they've had issues with equipment and just like everybody else, and keeping a full roster of folks to come through. So, but hopefully we'll be able to start cleaning the leaves out of the street a little bit better and see some improvement there.
Well, thank you. Last question. What steps do you think we could take as a city to address some of the like obsolete utility wires that are in some cases dangling? I think there's a lot of like legacy, like telecom and other types of wires wandering around that maybe don't really belong to anybody and aren't maintained to anybody. Like when they fall down, eventually somebody comes out from AT&T or whoever and, coils them up. But like, is there a way as a city that we could kind of minimize all the outdated stuff?
I don't know. We've done the best we can in keeping up with the AT&Ts and the Comcast or the Infinities or those folks that own those low voltage wires on those poles. And as best we can when they fall to those types of things, or we see that they're sagging, we reach out to the contacts we have in order to alert them that they have those things, that their wires are sagging and those types of things. And normally, we'll catch someone that's out on a call and, we'll ask them to assess it. And if we'll get lucky every now and then, they'll say, yeah, that's our wire, and they'll go ahead and take care of it. But normally, we just have to go through the same process all the time of going through the various carriers and saying, alerting them, because there's no real way to know. They're not color coded or anything like that. We don't know whose wires belong to what. And so, we just go through the same process every time that we see a wire down or somebody, sends in a request and say that there's a wire down. But normally, like I said, we ride the city every day. We see those things, we'll report it. So it's a little bit redundant. Not saying that they don't need to do it, but by the time we get a report from a resident, we've probably already seen it and put it in.
Let me weigh in on this one a little bit. And this doesn't answer the question nearly as directly as Mr. Kendrick. But one of the things, and this is probably falls into the category of housekeeping. We've got a lot of housekeeping that needs to be done. But normally the relationship with the various utility providers is accommodated by a franchise agreement. I was having a discussion with the mayor and the former mayor last week, and even the revenues. The city gets revenues from them using our right of ways. Um, and I can't tell you because my research hasn't started yet, but it is going to start with the finance department that we need to look at if we are receiving the revenue that we are entitled to. Um, so a corollary to the revenue would be to get into those agreements themselves, inventory, who all are our current as well as past franchisors, and then make sure that those agreements are updated or at least holding the various utility providers accountable. So that's probably a shorter term project only because the question has come up if we're getting sufficient revenue, but some of those other issues will certainly be a part of the review as well.
Well, thank you both.
Mr. Torrent?
Yeah. Uh, yes, thank you. So this comes up all the time. And is there a way that we could present some sort of maintenance schedule, not in a sense of this is what you do and this will be done Wednesday by 5 p.m. so that people can like check up on you, but like every week you'll do this, or once a month we do this. In November we'll run this kind of thing. Seasonally we're going to flush the flume, just to get a basic idea of what you guys do. I see you riding around all the time, picking up things like tree branches the other day when things were falling. I see you doing work all the time, and I think if people, it's one of those biases where if they don't see you doing it, then they don't know what you do and they think you don't do anything. And so I just feel like a maintenance schedule, as basic as it can be, presented, I think would go a long, long way.
Yeah, we're trying to develop that. I mean, it's easier to put something out like you as say during the growing season because it's more of a repetitious type of thing on those 39, pretty much 39 weeks. Um, during growing season that that we mowed this place on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and so on and so forth. But it's a little harder during these, winter months when, we don't have that much repetitious type of things. But, we're going to try to, I hear the same thing. I've heard it before. We're going to make a conscious effort that we're going to put something out so that we can have some kind of idea of what we're doing on a weekly basis, regarding the maintenance activities.
And Mr. Kendrick, once we get that developed, it's probably something that you need to work with Ned so that we can get it on the website and other places.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we'll make that conscious effort to get that done.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I wanted to flag Stephanie Kohler messaged me directly and said that she's not able to raise her hand, but she has a question.
Yeah, sorry, I'm
And
not.
I also received a message asking if we might can take a quick 5-minute bathroom break following this presentation. How do we all feel about that?
Yeah, I would really prefer if since we're all kind of in our private places, that you just take a break as you need to.
Okay.
It's a pretty tight schedule.
Sure, that makes sense.
Go ahead, Ms.
And
Kohler.
it is recorded.
Yeah, that's right.
Go ahead, Ms. Kohler.
Okay, thank you. Actually, I think that Councilmember Lowers and Councilmember Torrent have covered my questions, so I appreciate it. But I'll just add that I like that you put some poetry in the packet, so thank you.
Oh, I can recite that.
I, well, I have a lit degree, so I love it.
Yeah.
And just it's a small detail, but I do think it's something that I want to mention it here because residents have often talked about kind of having a sense of place on Rockbridge so that people really do actually notice that they go through Pine Lake for a very brief time. And I think the choice to put the lights there is really helpful. So I'm glad that's coming through. I look forward to seeing that this year. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. I'm gonna give credit where credit is due. Um, this has been, the Mayor Hall, former Mayor Hammett, even when the city manager got here saying, we need to announce our presence. Former council member Woods, more especially saying, we need to announce our presence. We did put some things in the CIP regarding visualization and those kind of things because that and it's even before I got here was talk about the monument signage. We just didn't or haven't, circle back to what the signage would look like. I know what the previous signage looked like that sat right there in the triangle, but it wasn't as visible as uh, folks would like it to be. And so we do have some options that we could bring forward for us to look at. But I think at this time, since we're trying to, you know, put together something with the that downtown, that might be the vehicle to place that in, so that it'll be cohesive, and won't look like the public works director put something together. It'll look like business owners and those kind of folks had some input in those things that kind of drive a commercial district, that type of thing. So yeah, looking forward to working with getting the Christmas lights up there. We finally did work out the fact that we do have the right, even though we don't have the maintenance responsibilities of Rock Bridge Road, but we do have the right to access that for holiday lightings and those kind of things. So yeah, looking forward to that. Uh, and get that done come
Yeah.
next November.
Yeah, thank you. I think also this is a great opportunity for residents who want to be involved in something like this to we've got loads of advance notice that we're going to do this. So I hope some of y'all really want to consider that and contact us with ideas and see if we can kind of put some things together and work with the business district and really create something really lovely up there.
Yeah, I totally agree, and the same thing about the community lighting of the tree and those types of events. And similarly with Lake Fest and making sure you got optimum presence to direct people toward the event and the other events, Pride and all the other events that we have down at the lake. Any other questions?
Um, I've just got one and just want to again thank you for all the work that's being done and look forward to more getting done in the next future. I think in terms of communication, it's an ever, challenge that we face. And I think it's not just getting information out, but also the timeliness of information. So whatever we can do to coordinate so that people are knowing in advance versus the day of something happening. And I think there's been situations where people were caught off guard because they hadn't been informed yet that something was going to be happening, a project. And it's the hardest thing we do is communicate. So whatever we can do to really give people enough notice, knowing that not everyone's going to read emails or Facebook or whatever ways we get information out. So the more we can blast information to people, the better it is. So thank you.
Well, let me say if that's a failing of mine is once I get a go ahead to get something done, I'm going to try to go ahead and get something done. And so we'll work hard to kind of pull it back a notch and then move forward accordingly. But I appreciate the comment. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what you do, Mr. Kendrick. You get things done, and I think it's just coordinating with the other arms involved in the process to make sure that we're all backing each other up and getting enough information out to residents.
Thank you.
Where our collaboration comes into, now that we have an established communications kind of person, we can make sure that stuff gets better and better.
Yes. So we can move on to police. We're right on schedule. Chief, your time will go through 3:10 or until 3:10.
Good afternoon. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Nate, you are absolutely right, because I don't know what happened, but I just got seriously nervous and my hands is all clammy. So it is different when all eyes are on you. Good afternoon, and thank you guys for doing this. I think this is super important. I think I tell my guys, in order to do a really good job, people that do the best job are people that know exactly what's expected of them and have the tools to do so. So as our new exciting council members, I think it just makes a whole lot of sense that we have the opportunity, which is, my aunt used to say, start how you want to finish, where, you guys can be almost fully immersed into what all we do and what you can expect from each of us in our departments. So I'm going to go slightly off script, and I'm going to start with who am I? I've had the honor of serving the Pine Lake Police Department for a little over 20 years. When I first began my journey here in the city of Pine Lake looked very different. Physically, organizationally, and even culturally. The Pine Lake Police Department was different. The community was different. And the challenge we faced was really, really different. I think people like Jeff, who've been on this train for quite some time, can attest to it. Over the years, I've stood with the city through protest storms, lawsuits, allegations, and moments that I think tested us all and our resolve to do and roll up our sleeves and do the work. Throughout it all, I remain committed to serving alongside our employees, residents, neighbors, and local businesses, and always with the goal of protecting, serving with integrity, protecting the integrity, of the city and the trust of the community. That's always been our goal. Today, I'm proud of the journey Pine Lake has taken, proud of the progress that we continue to make. We're supported by dedicated employees. Mr. Hawthorne, he's always just really building us up and encouraging us to do our very best, and he gives us the bandwidth to do it. So I'm really super excited about where we are and where we're going, and professional staff and intentional leadership that values accountability, transparency, and appreciates and respects the services that we provide for each other. I am optimistic about where we're headed and confident that together with our new council members that we're gonna continue to grow, positively. And I'm not saying it's not gonna be hard. So I think with that, you can go ahead and roll that beautiful bean footage, Ned. So this is our beautiful lake. What I'm doing is, while we're looking at this screen, I created a outline that I'll be going through. So I'm just going to be basically narrating some of the slides that you see. So first, I like to start off with the logistics, which is our Pine Lake specific jurisdiction is 0.25 square miles with approximately 800 residents. Daily impacted population exceeds 100,000 due to our merchants, visitors, and special events. As you guys know, we have like in just a 2-mile radius. We have in the 5-mile radius that passes straight through the city. You have 2 elementary schools, 1 high school, and about 5 daycare centers. So we easily exceed 100,000 a day. The reality, Pine Lake is a small city with large city public safety demands. We are located exactly central South DeKalb. You can continue, Ned. Just wanted to throw this just at a glance, just the breakdown of who we are. Staffing, we have 3 full-time sworn officers patrolling. That, of course, does not include me. We have 1 part-time sworn officer, and we have 1 administrative officer, which is our flex officer, who serves as our TAC administrative officer, who helps with a lot of our reports and administrative duties that's handled by the sworn personnel. It also gives us an additional person on shift that can provide reports, be there to answer the phone, to answer warrants. We've been flexing for a very long time. In fact, one of the hats that Ned was wearing, kind of cocked to the side, was serving in assistance as a TAC, which means that when situations process through our court system, and then there's a warrant, and then once the warrant is on the system, well, first of all, it has to be placed on the system. Then once it's on the system, if that person is taken into custody by any other agency, it's sent via computer or GCIC, which is something that it's not like a phone call. And that means that somebody has to constantly be constantly monitoring, which means that these type of situations can happen anytime. And there's a window that we have to respond to that inquiry so that that person can be taken into custody, or that person will be released. There's also guidelines by federal and state guidelines saying how long you can keep a person, how many times you can have incident where no one responds. So that's a very critical part of what we do. And we basically had someone at City Hall doing it, and so now we have a person that works part-time and sometimes remote, so that when that does happen, we do have access to those systems to make that happen. So that's been a big win. As far as projections, we look forward to where we can have that person more than just part-time. So that's kind of on our wish list. Also, we have approximately 10 reserve officers. Our reserve officers are volunteer/auxiliary. They follow all the same protocol in terms of hiring as any of our officers that we have. They have to go to what they call FTO, field training, and then we usually put them in a particular, assign them to a particular department. We have our court services. They come in and they handle all of our court issues. If someone in court has to be taken into custody, or when someone comes to court, if when their information is ran, if we see that, oh, this person is wanted, we have to take them into custody and then transport them. And sometimes it's DeKalb County, sometimes it's Gwinnett County, sometimes it's Cobb County. So it's a huge help because it allows us to still maintain coverage. They serve as almost like a force multiplier. You see a lot of them out for the different events that we have. It allows us to do Lake Fest, Pride Fest, any of the other extracurricular activities that we do. It just allows force multipliers and not exhaust our officers. It also allows us to have our officers, since we don't pay well. One of my big pet peeves is quality of life, not just for the residents, but for the employees as well. So if you know you work someplace that maybe you don't get paid a lot, but you know you don't necessarily have to always work on the weekends. So we have our reserve that work on the weekends, giving our officers at least time to spend with their families because we're small. So they have a tendency to not be as flexible as far as other agencies when you have people that call in because they're sick or they're not going to make it. So, you know, these guys, which the last council organization, they had some tough decisions to make, and this is kind of segueing regarding the accumulation of our comp time and hours. But if you don't have the employees to take off, well, then you have people accruing all these hours. And I think last year, the year before, it was signed that we could no longer accrue. What was it? I think it's vacation
80
hours.
Yeah, 80 hours comp time, 240 vacation.
So now you have us, you know, working a lot, and because we have the reserve officers and because we're bringing on more officers, being able to give them some time off to use some of that time, because like since we've hit that max for all of us, it's like we haven't been able to accrue that. So that just kind of gives you an idea of how we're working and what we're working with. If you put those numbers into any kind of average coverage model, it would recommend about 4 officers full-time and anywhere from 2 to 4 part-time officers. So just to kind of give you an idea of, and that takes into account training, which is mandated, off days, birthdays, sick, vacation, anything you can name of. So those are just a couple things. Another big ticket, when you think in terms of law enforcement and what do we do most, and that's drive in our vehicles. We spend 100% of our job in these vehicles, so you can almost imagine a certain level of wear and tear. I would say that with our current fleet, my vehicle and I think one of the other vehicles are the only vehicles that the city of Pine Lake has purchased. The rest of the vehicles are in-kind donations from maybe Sandy Springs, Brookhaven, and these are due to partnerships and relationships with those agencies, just to kind of give you an idea of working lean, you know, and working with what we have. So just to kind of give you an idea for folks that say, you know, we got a whole lot of cars in the parking lot. It's like you didn't pay for any of those, you know, and we've been stretching it out. Sometime this summer, having issues with heating, with the air, and with these vests on, it gets pretty crucial. So, you know, like I said, we're growing. You know, it's like you do what you can until you do what you need to do. Trying not to skimp on those very vital things. So, and kind of knowing what you want. You want to feel safe. Well, we know that safety costs, you know, and when we look at the stats around us, you know, Pine Lake is this weird, insane bubble, you know, because we do have partnerships and because we do have dedicated individuals that actually, you know, enjoy what they do and the people that they work with and the community that they serve. Okay, going down. What I did was this is something that the city manager had us prepare last year. So what I did was I did a combination of, just to give you guys an idea of the calls of service from 2024 to 2025. You can see that. That's pretty self-explanatory. Once upon a time, citations were a big thing. As many citations as we issue warning. We issue warnings as well. And what I like about it is I know that it may not be fiscally, good, but as far as what our job is, which is public safety, I think that reflects that, our what is it? Our priority is community policing, because that's nothing compared to other agencies and just this kind of area. But it allows us actually for a lot of teachable moments, and I think that's part of the whole why we're here. You can go to the next slide, Ned. This right here, this is one of my favorite parts. I think that and maybe it's because I'm a Libra, but I think the biggest part of life is about balance. I think when you work hard, you have to play hard. I think when you, I think it just has to have balance. People that enjoy what they do, most times do it well. So I think in the last couple years, it's come to the forefront, the relationship of the us and them as far as the community and law enforcement has been terribly fractured. So we've been intentional in the programs and just the interactions and creating that balance, because it's important. It's like being a parent. You can't have cookies and ice cream all day. There are some stern moments. There's a reason for the season. There's a reason for the madness. But we try to create spaces where there is some type of interaction, there is some learning, etc. Ned calls it the 20/80 rule. It's like if you yes, Ned, I'm putting you out there. The 20/80 rule. It's like if the only time you experience somebody is 80% of the time you experience somebody, and this is the situation. Because we don't come over for tea and crumpets. We come because somebody has called 911, and most of the time, folks are not in a very good mood. So if this is how you experience me all the time, then my perception of you is this who you are. This is who you are. This is how you're showing up. But when we have these different situations and initiatives, it allows us to extend the level of approach. I think that we grew up in an era where we were kind of taught with a sword, and you can do it that way, but then here we are. So it's about living and learning and finding other approaches, because you can have the same basic rules, but sometimes we do have to find better ways to reach and communicate. So just going through that, operational highlights, increased patrols during peak merchant hours to address theft and crowd management, implemented a reserve officer weekend patrol program, which reduces overtime costs by 12%. Now that we've been plugging them in, that's even more, because for one, our code enforcement officer is a reserve. The guys who work on the weekends are reserves. Some of the guys that go out for the warrants roundup are reserves. So just to kind of give you an idea, officers provide security for the Pride Fest, for the Lake Fest, for the movie production. You guys know, participated in the Walk with the Cop, aka Unity Walk. That was really, really awesome, and the guys were really super happy to see that some of these same faces that came out to support were the faces that now they see on the screen, who are our new elected officials. So that's very representative of support and putting your money where your mouth is, or something like that. Also Halloween, we are big on our Halloween approach. That's when all all of our children are out. You know, we tell them don't talk to strangers, all that other cool stuff, and then we go to strangers' house and go beg them for something. So that just always weirded me out. So I said, you know what, we're going to be out and about. So on Halloween, you know, again, reserve officers coming. Again, this is a time when we get to get out. I think we had an officer that had a tutu on, but we made sure, you know, it wasn't obstructing anything. But just community engagement. So this is opportunities to reach out and providing service. Go down to and these are just some pictures of some of the events. You know, the emergency management. I think you guys got a chance to see just with all the intel and information. You know, I definitely wasn't standing outside, you know, catching that for myself. It was collaboration. It was I don't know, Mr. Hawthorne, how many daggone Zoom team whatever did we have? And it was just constant. But that's what we do. In any of the other initiatives, hopefully you guys will get a copy of this so you can just kind of look through and pick apart. Ned, you can scroll it up just a little bit. And this is just another
You mean
scroll.
up?
Yes.
It's like turn the temperature up. You want me to move the document to the next page?
Yes.
All right.
Ned, you are no Vanna White. Okay, so right here you see a cool little performance net matrix that we kind of put together. I think a lot of times people are interested in just some of the stats and how they make sense. The number of, like I have right here, citations, and what is the citations that we give out? Like what do we find are our biggest violations, and even stuff like that is teachable moments for people because they get to see that you know, I should probably, you know, make sure my tag is registered, or why is it such a big deal with tags, or you know, and it's like, because most people think that they have the whole month of May to get their licenses opposed to their birthday. So a lot of time it's just like that, you know, this is what happened. And then sometimes it's seasonal. You know, during the winter months we have less daylight hours, so we have a lot less activity, you know, but sometimes our domestic violence ticks up because now people are in the house with the people that they love and that drive them the most insane. So just some great stats to kind of look at. Organization and realignment. Just some things that we have been working on. Let's see. Okay, let's see. We have complete and code management. Developing a streamlined system to manage complaints, concerns for code enforcement, improve response time and accountability. That, because our code enforcement system was more or less responsive, majority responsive, of course I go out and, you know, I was the one to document and notate, but we heavily responded on folks submitting complaints, and then we would follow up on. So we have actually a code enforcement officer. We have a dedicated line for code enforcement. So that's been working really well for us. GCIC, Georgia Crime Information Operations, transitioned to a hybrid schedule with 2 in office and 2 remote days. So this is the flex position that I was telling you guys about. The GCIC, which is the Georgia Crime and Information, that's the highway of information when people want to get their driver's license done. People want to know if I have a warrant. So that's the informational, and that's not, most of the stuff that we do is not stuff that we can just say, hey, come volunteer, because most of the things that we do require certification or require security and integrity type of training and agreement. So these are all the things that we were able to help to be in compliant with state regulations Lobby hours. We actually have some lobby hours where folks are a lot. They don't have to just call me, because most folks, if the lobby is closed, they're calling me and I'm stepping out. But we actually have posted hours, which allows us to print reports for folks that need reports, accidents, to if their car is impound, they have to get an impound release to secure an impound release, and just all the administrative interactions that come with the police department. Technology and equipment upgrade, procurement of a laptop to replace outdated system. Now, the laptop that our TAC was using was an old laptop from an administrator at City Hall, and at some point in time it was end of life and it just gave up the ghost. So these things are not cheap, so we had to end up replacing that. As far as upgrades also, we are, I would say, pending is our plan for a body-worn camera system. The difficulty in that is that these are reoccurring costs. Of course, you have your implementation where, you know, that's like the big cost, and then you have to pay for storage, for monitoring, for all kind of other stuff. So we were able to secure funds via the SPLOS, but I'll be meeting with this is his name, Stephen. Sorry, Stephen. I'll be meeting with Stephen to make sure we can find a smart way to initiate that body cam system and technology to where we can afford to pay those reoccurring costs. So and also we also had SPLOS money to secure a new vehicle. Well, like I explained to you guys, with the vehicles, we want to purchase smart. You know, we don't want to get one vehicle for all of these different people driving, only to in 4 or 5 years, because most agencies switch them out in about 4 or 5 years, where it starts to go down and we're stuck once again purchasing. So right now I'm in communication with one of the dealerships to purchase 2 of their late model vehicles. That's that they have a program where they have, the dealerships have a buyback program, so they will sell an agency a brand new car and they can turn in their old car, and what they'll do is they'll evaluate it, you know, new engine, new transmission, you know, they have a full process and warranties, and they're usually really great vehicles. As you can see, the vehicles that we've had out there that have lasted us this long have been vehicles by way of that same type of situations. So we're pending on that, and when we prior to pulling the trigger on that, of course that'll be information that will be introduced, so you guys can kind of get a chance to look at it and just better understand how everything functions. Let's see, facilities and aesthetics. We were able to install some new carpeting and get some new office furniture. I think we were the last building to, because we had moved up to City Hall and then up to the new building. The police department has always been the redheaded stepchild, so I'll just say that at least. And just as a little plug, I hope that you guys get a chance to, at some point in time, you know, take a in-depth tour of all of the buildings that we have, all of the city facilities, not just outside and, oh, he just painted it and put lipstick on it. It's like, these are old buildings. You know, the carpet that we did a fundraiser, about 2 years ago, to replace carpet, and the carpet that was there was probably since 1939, you know, and so was a lot of the fixtures, so was a lot of, you know, like I don't know, some good work in building, but it's You know, when it rains, our bathroom floods, or it could flood, it could not flood. It's groundwater, probably related to what's going over at the park. So just to kind of give, you know, like a little Kendrick plug to say, you know, it's not so much more than what it looks like. You can't just, you know, mop it up. It's you have to follow the root of the issue. So sometimes it just gets a little complicated. So facilities and aesthetics, new carpeting. We are in transition as far as having an on-staff instructor. But prior to that, I think he's kind of transitioning into retirement. But prior to that, we have training the first once a month at the clubhouse for the officers, and we had lots of retired officers that would come and train, which was so good because it served almost like a mentorship for retired officers to, you know, rub elbows with some of our guys. And out of that relationship, one of the retired guys, I can't remember who he worked for, but it's like the opposite or the arch nemesis of Georgia Power. I don't know if I can say that on recording, but they donated 2 ADAs for us. One we keep down here in the office, and one they check out when they're on patrol, so that if there is an emergency, especially with so many visitors to the city, we have the watering hole post office. You know, we just got so many. We just got open air places. We got council. We got court. We got the beach that we open to the public. You know, and just me personally, and some of you guys know, because you've been part of that journey. The importance of time and how precious minutes in a situation of like a heart attack or something like that can really mean the difference in a person. So that's one of my favorite things that we were gifted with for last year. Also, replacement of the exterior door. I wish we could have took that door out back and burned it. I think that door came with the building, and just really difficult because it's a smaller department, and we just always worried about that door. Not even just for security reasons, but also, you know, it's funny when I watch the video and I see one of the officers go running out of the PD, and I'm wondering, like, rewinding, like, what happened, and it was like a lizard that got up under the door and basically came in and then chased him out of the building. So I would if I could find it, I would totally show it. So we got that replaced. Thank you, Mr. Kendrick. Appreciate you identifying that as a need and replacing that. And we still got some pending things. I think with the storm that we just had, and then just with COVID, we realized it's important to, right down here we have to have a shower for wellness and readiness. That sounds like really you know, flowers and smell like pooping roses. You know, it sounds like, you don't really need that. But like a couple weeks ago, no, this was sometime last year, one of our officers had he had an incident where the individual he ended up rolling on the ground with the guy. So he's scratched up and he's wet, and now he has to work the rest of the shift. So I come in, I put in my uniform, and I come in and you know, patrol for an hour or two for him to go home, change his clothes, get dressed, and come back, and then have to turn the paperwork back in. So if we were situated a lot better, that would have not been an issue. So that's something that we have to look forward to. Let's see what else we have next.
Hey, Chief, we've got another 15 minutes, and you want to allow some time for council questions as well.
Okay, fair enough. Just let me just skim through. Okay, so professional training and development. You can see where a lot of our officers was able to secure some additional certifications, so that's awesome. We had 2 new reserve officers. One will eventually be doing has been doing our investigations and follow up, which is super awesome. Interagency cooperation. I think you guys got a chance to see that last weekend. And below you see the goals that we have for 2026, which of course fleet, increase in training hours. We got some promotions that we're going to be doing. We have the new RMS system because it's at end of life. We're looking at making some strides with our code enforcement, so on and so forth. And that's kind of it in a nutshell. I was writing some stuff down while the guys were talking. A lot of what we do, even though we've made some good strides, a lot of what we do kind of like clashes or intermingles or whatever. Ned mentioned the zoning and erosion settlement control. Anytime Amanda's deployed, I'm kind of like the backup or my code enforcement officer, just because we too are on the ground and issue the stop work orders and so on and so forth. Let's see, business and alcohol license. We run the backgrounds to identify whether this person is even able to get that type of privilege license. We do inspections as far as the permits. We work in communication with Ned. Once he says it's a go, we go by, we check on it, and sometimes it's a matter of staging trees and blocking off the intersections. I had some Q&A questions that I had down here on my little script. Just some things and just reviewing it. Why does Pine Lake need a robust police operation for such a small city? Well, daily population, as we explained, it surges for different events. Let's see, investment technology. You know what? I'm going to let you guys go ahead and see if you have any questions or concerns about where we are and what we're doing. What I say? Pine Lake employees and workload is definitely unconventional but adaptive. We think of this as our strength and would say it's our core operational strength. Pine Lake is a small city with broad responsibilities. So just to highlight that, you guys, when you go in for surgery, I don't care what kind of surgery it is, it's the same protocol. It could be, it's the same protocol. There's safety measures, there's signatures that have to be signed, there's legal, medical. So just because it's a small surgery or whatever, it's still surgery. So if you guys have any questions, I would love to entertain them. Some ideas that you think are super cool. Maybe I'll pretend to like them. Maybe I'll actually love them. I think that's all I have, Ned. I think Stephanie's going to be the first one to raise her hand. Watch this.
Actually, I can't because my Zoom, but I do have questions. So
okay.
I'll take that as maybe being called on. Just a couple really brief things. You have this great, like the slide that's a few ahead of the current one that has all the graphics on it.
Okay.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding, because that shows like 25 officers and 18 vehicles, not that slide. So the one with it's like mostly images. Yes, this one. I'm a little confused because it seems like it's different sets of information. So maybe I've misunderstood. Like,
okay. I think what now I have to look back at my stuff. I think the 25 was the total. the total of sworn officers that we've had, and that was for that particular within that year. We have some folks that went on to. We lost one of our officers. He flies helicopters for DeKalb County. So this was prepared, and that's why I broke down the numbers again. So we initially had about 25.
Okay.
And sometimes they train real good, and we can't afford to hire them, so they end up, either being on reserve or they end up getting hired and picked up. But
Okay.
we're sitting at about 5, so
Okay.
that's where we are right there.
And then with the
So-
vehicles, it says 18 on that
I
graphic.
don't know what that 18 is. It probably
Okay.
it could have shifted. I'm so sorry. I wish we had.
okay.
It probably looked like 18 sitting out there.
Yeah,
But
I just want
I
to
think-
make sure, like, I'm keeping up.
No, you could. Yeah, I'll revise that.
Okay.
But I think, and like I said, this was beginning. Last year we surplus 2 vehicles, and we were able to surplus 2 vehicles, and we sold them on Gov Deal, and we got about $8,000 for them. So that's how once we surplus them, we put them on Gov Deals, and other dealerships, agencies, whatever, will pick them up, and we're at our wits' end. We can't afford to put $2,000-$3,000 back into a car.
Sure.
But somebody else who has a fleet maintenance and everything, they can afford to just drop an engine.
Right.
All of the bells and whistles are already inside the vehicle, so it would be cost prohibitive for them, or but not for us.
Okay.
Hey Chief,
Yes, sir.
just interrupt for a second. Why don't you plan to review and revise, if it's needed, this table for your
Okay.
February strategic performance report, and then we can revisit it at the next work session.
Gotcha.
That'd
Yes,
be
sir.
great. Yeah, thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Hawthorne. My other quick question is the other table that's like the blue with just lots of rows and not graphics.
I like the blue.
It's a few slides before this one.
Okay, I'm looking at it.
I just want to get a clarification on the reserve officers. It says volunteer and auxiliary. Just for myself and other people who might check in on this, volunteer could mean a lot of different things in different contexts. So can you clarify, like, is this a paid position? Like, what does volunteer mean in this context?
So volunteer / auxiliary / reserve are officers that are state, that have they're sworn officers with arrest powers, in good standing, references checked, that are with the hired onto the agency, but do not receive paid compensation.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
No problem.
That's all I've got.
Okay. Hey, Jane.
Right. Somehow I beat out Thomas for the first dibs. One thing that the council, current and past, have started talking about more recently is annexation on a variety of scales. And I'm wondering if for policing, there are standards that you apply either by population or by type of zoning or by square mileage or whatever that would be able to help you when the time comes and we ask for it, figure out what it would take to support a larger Pine Lake.
You're asking me, like, what would we need?
Well, and just like are resources available to you to help figure out that calculation? Like, do you?
I could provide those calculations, because we keep somewhat of a running list of, we call it a wish list of the things that we need for a more robust police department. To give you an example, we have one of our reserves who's in processing of receiving his certification. He's taking a training certification to be an investigator. We need an investigator. and we would not need to depend on a reserve investigator should something happen. For major crimes, right now, for major crimes, we'd relinquish the scene to some degree to DeKalb County and have their, major felony deal with it. Of course, I would be totally against. I would be recommending at least 2. Sometimes we usually have 1.5, and that half would be me, still listening to the radio, having to respond. The type of calls that we have in this area and then in the surrounding area, I would feel very unsafe just constantly having only one officer respond to that, or maybe 2 at night. That backup, and I could think of a number of other things. And then, like we talked about those numbers, because it looks like, well, 3 is fine, but you have to take into account off time. You have to take into account leave, training, just a lot of different things. So court, different administrative responsibility. So we would be looking at least doubling our police department. So that's definitely something to think about, and then attracting officers. It's like, I was looking through my page, thumbing through my page, and I was looking at what everybody else was offering. I was like, everybody's got their leg up out the window, trying to, bring on new people with some, great initiatives or whatever. So, we would definitely have to think about getting a more robust police department, and I could definitely get those numbers for you.
I just presume there'll be a point we'll ask for him. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Torrent?
Hello, good evening or afternoon.
Afternoon.
Just to say what you said earlier about taking a tour of the facilities. We can do that even with a quorum. So I think that I would love to do that at any time that it is offered.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
That out there.
So what I'll do is, just to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, I'll get Mr. I'll get with Mr. Kendricks, just put him on the spot, and then that way you can see some of the exterior of some of the, because even his eye is different than me as far as, oh, we need gutters. Oh, that's why it looks like that. So it would be a more comprehensive overview. I'll put that on my calendar, and I'll send you guys out some invites.
Cool. Count me in. I'm excited to do it.
Thank you.
You've got on your hopes for this coming year a golf cart code compliance, which I really like. But also, could we lessen the impact on our fleet if we had for patrol like a Segway? Like downtown Atlanta, the MARTA police have Segways, and not for Rockbridge. I understand that's a different bird, but for going around, the residential quarter mile, could we not lessen needing these big, expensive machines if we just had a policeman do a Segway loop?
Okay, so I'm gonna kind of sort of say no. Anything that we would get like a Segway or whatever would be in addition to, as an option. I'll tell you one project that I am working on, if I could get it, is I have an officer who's super excited about a bicycle patrol. So I'm thinking about, especially during the summer months. Now, the reason why I said no is because there's not a type of scheduling where you know where the call is going to come from. So if I'm down at the lake and a call comes in at the apartments, I'm going to have to come all the way back, get the car, and go down. Or if I go straight down there and this guy starts, just doing jumping jacks, I'm totally exposed on a bike. Not to mention We still trying to get folks to slow down, driving, but I would like something like that in addition to, especially when we have, just events and a lot of people, to have something like a Segway, a bicycle, a golf cart, just as a force multiplier. So say we have an officer on duty with a vehicle, but then the secondary officer might be in the Segway or on a bike, because I've always loved the idea of a more walkable community, less emissions, impact, and environmentally blah blah blah. I kind of like the idea. I think it kind of sets the tone, and it's so alignment in just who we are. But I'm really looking forward to that. But I will tell you, Torrent, go ahead and Google that, because those things are super freaking expensive. You can buy a Kia brand new for the price that you can buy one of those. So they get pretty pricey, but I think that it would do well in addition to, for who we are and just community. So.
And that it would just go along with who you are, I think, as like a public safety director. I love seeing you out in the community and how you interact with our residents and our visitors. And so I think it would just really go in with how you train your officers. So thanks. That's all for me.
I know they say riding a bike is, it's like, but boy, that bike feel real different now. That bike feel real different. I don't know if I could do it like I used to. Definitely no Papa Wheelies. But point well taken. I totally get it. So, and if you notice, like at the different events, I let the guys bring their toys out. I think Cooper had a Segway the last time. Deputy Williams had his drone up in the air, and these were just wetting their whistle on just different ways to provide public safety, because I think there's a balance between law enforcement and public safety. Law enforcement feels like we standing up there just watching people, opposed to public safety being more of a protective security type of aspect.
Okay, we are near the end of time, and Ned, I can't see hands. So can you moderate for me how many more questions we've got?
I think Jeff's got another question.
Yeah, we got a question from Councilmember Goldberg, and perhaps that could be the final one, and then we could any other questions.
Yes, bearing in mind that the chief attends all of your meetings, so this conversation can continue.
Yep.
Okay. Couple things real quick. Thank you for you and your department for all that you do. I would encourage you to maybe think about how we can help educate our community to understand the seriousness of your jobs, while at the same time balance the wish for sort of a small town Mayberry RFD police department. So how do we educate people of that, so we could help people understand better the push-pull of that dynamic? I think whenever I talk with residents, the big question that always comes up is code compliance. Mm-hmm. How do we get, consistency on that? How do we know if it's happening or not happening? How do we inform, or can we inform people if it, something is being addressed or not addressed? So, some of that I think is just information and communication with residents, but also just for code compliance, I think it's I hear frustrations over and over, and yet people don't know all the cases that have been taken care of.
Right.
So the question would be, I guess, you have a reserve officer doing code compliance. Is he just only on weekends, or is he throughout the week, depending on his schedule as well?
He has a flex schedule. He comes on weekends and he comes throughout the week. We've been kind of also flexing our looking at just taking in all the information that we received and going first for our most egregious and our highest, which are the dilapidated buildings and so on and so forth, and kind of dealing with them. And he and I spoke. Matter of fact, it's just not made pretty, but he's already finished his assessment of the entire city and his recommendations. So we'll be pushing forward toward then. Jeff, I would just like I would love to work with you guys on that, because code enforcement, like, we got to figure out how honest we want to be, because it's not just this person's yard. Because what I find behind the scenes is that everybody's pointing at each other. Like, did you see his yard? I know he's not complaining. And some of it I'm like, yeah, I know, but what do we call what? And where's our standard? So just to introduce what our standard's going to be, so that we can all understand, and that this is our stop and start. So I would love to work with maybe you and some others. We could just when we get that together, after I meet with Mr. Hawthorne, I'll reach back out to you guys so we can find that balance. Because like I said, yeah, that's a super hot topic. Everybody wants me to, check out their property until I check out your property. And then it's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, whoa, what do you mean? What I mean? So it gets tough. Like, what's going to be our standard? And maybe all of us could be educated to say, oh, wow, those are wildflowers. And it does look rough for 2 months, and then it pollinates, but everything is not a daggone pollinator. Come on.
Yeah. Well, I think it might be worthwhile to have maybe a future town hall and the conversation about, are we wanting code compliance or are we wanting code enforcement? Because
Exactly.
it's similar to Mr. Kendrick talking about level of service. I think that's a similar conversation for code compliance. What is the norm? What are we going for? And then what fits best for our city? Enforcement, to me, there are, dilapidated buildings that I think require enforcement, but I think the majority of Pine Lake, it's more about compliance.
Right. And I want to deal with all the junk vehicles and the dilapidated buildings, and then I'll deal with telling your neighbor to cut their grass, because you got to be kidding me, that's too high.
Yep.
And once they see that there's changes, they realize changes have to be made.
Okay.
Agreed.
If you guys don't have any more questions, I just want to say really quickly in closing, what I'm hoping to expect from you guys is communication is a big thing, and I understand that, but I think that I love the way that you guys have struggled hard to accommodate and be accommodating, to make sure that there are options for our residents to communicate and to engage. But I think it's very important, because it'll never be enough. I think it's very important that we create a standard. We create a standard so that people know, where. It's like when you walk your dog. Yeah, it's natural, but we can't just have them pooping all over the place. If they know that these are where you go for information, and they're strong and they're consistent and they're steady, and this is where you should go. Because everybody's been so far explaining to you all the stuff that they do with limited staff. So if you guys could work collectively with us to encourage people, check out a bulletin board. You can't check out a bulletin board? Go online, get on this, get on that, so we could direct people to the places where information is shared.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
Thank
Chief,
you.
As we segue to court administration, I want to let the council know that I did advise finance in advance that that Stephen would need to be prepared to reduce his presentation. So we will do a full segment of court, and then Stephen will adjust his presentation accordingly so we can stay on schedule.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon. Ned, I'm ready when you are. You want to pull it up to court?
Yep.
Thank you. I don't know how I'm gonna follow Chief though, man. That was a lot. I'm gonna do my best here. My name is Stephanie Capers. I am new with Pine Lake. I've been here about 2 years now, so I mean, I think that's fairly new compared to everybody else. I'm probably the baby of the bunch. My background is court for about 15 years, but prior to that, I was in telecommunications where I got to experience from customer service to technical support to sales. I also had banking in my background. So I really feel like I had the experience needed to become a one-stop shop because that's pretty much what I am for the court department at this time. Ned used to assist me with court sessions, but that's now done by Danita Robinson, and I'll get to that further in. So if Ned, you want to go to the next slide. What you're looking at, of course, are my offices. You have the court where I do sessions twice a month, and then you have the annex building where I do most of the work at. We can move on. This next slide, I just wanted to kind of teach that the municipal court is sort of the baseline of the Georgia court system. Of all the courts that are in our system, municipal court is the one that, as we say, does the most work because we handle traffic tickets. And like for a superior or a Supreme Court or a state court, their caseloads aren't always 30, 40, 50, 100 cases on the calendar at one time. We hear code enforcement, as I had mentioned. I mean, I heard you guys mention, and I'll go into some more information about that later on down. We also handle bench trials, not jury trials. Jury trials, where if you want your case to go before peers, would have to be transferred up to state court. I'm ready for the next one. This again just gives you an outline of the Georgia court system. The numbers in red, as you saw on the other slide too, are just the numbers as to how many different courts are in the system in Georgia at this time, as of 2024. When I printed out the slide, of course, it said 7 Supreme Courts, but there's, I mean, justices on the Supreme Court, but there's actually 9. And Court of Appeals is 15. Superior Court and most of the other courts is 159 because there are 159 counties in Georgia, and they all at least have a Superior Court, Magistrate Court, Probate Court, and a Juvenile Court. State court and municipal courts vary. As you can see, municipal courts have the most, anywhere from 370 to 400 within the state. We can go on to the next one because I'm gonna get more in detail. So this slide represents what the court actually prosecutes in that manner. Traffic stops, most traffic violations from red light, stop sign. Okay, I'm going off memory and I probably should just read my thing. Speeding tickets, driving under the influence, city ordinances, misdemeanors, shoplifting, possession of small amounts of marijuana. There's several different violations that are handled in municipal court. They are considered misdemeanors. And most people get confused with that, thinking a traffic ticket is not knowing a traffic ticket is a misdemeanor. They don't understand when they can go to jail for a red light violation. But in actuality, it is not the violation they're going for. When it gets to that point, most of the time it's because they have missed a court date. Not so much because they ran that stop sign. The book to the far right, which is the law enforcement book, is the book that has the state laws in it. All municipal courts don't handle all the laws that are in there. It depends on your jurisdiction. Some laws apply to our jurisdiction and some may apply to others, you know, larger courts and so on. I'm ready for the next one. Again, this explains misdemeanors. Misdemeanors in a municipal court, they are punished by $1,000 fine, up to $1,000 fine. and up to 12 months in jail. Jail time sentences are served in a local county or city jail. Ours would be DeKalb County. Anyone that is picked up on our charges goes to DeKalb County. There's also a aggravated misdemeanor, which could be assessed a fine of up to $5,000. That is not, I have not seen it in the 2 years that I've been here. In other words, most DUIs that we get wind up getting bound over to state court. So we handle a lot of the expired tag, suspended license, most traffic occurrences. There's one thing that I do want to point out, which is the last statement here, the criminal record. A misdemeanor conviction can result in a permanent criminal record, which can impact future employment, housing, and educational opportunities. A lot of people don't understand that too with the municipal court, you know, with a traffic court. They just unfortunately believe it's a traffic ticket. Why is this stopping me from getting a job at this point? And again, it goes back to not so much the violation of the red light, but not obeying the orders of the court or even appearing. Most people don't realize when you get a citation that it's actually not quite a subpoena, but it is a requirement to come to court if it's not a payroll offense and you don't post that fine first. I'm ready for the next one. Okay, this is going over again some of the charges that are considered common misdemeanors, such as DUI, as I mentioned, possession of less than an ounce of marijuana. We really don't see that one that much lately. Theft by shoplifting, simple assault, and simple battery. Those actually don't come to municipal court. They do get bound up to state court. A warrant is taken out, in other words, and it goes to state court. Once upon a time, they were. I was in a court at one time where we were doing first appearances for an assault or charge, but they're no longer done there either. Public intoxication, criminal trespass, that's another one that's actually, a warrant is taken out and it's transferred to state court. So we would mostly handle, as it says, most traffic offenses, speeding, red light, expired tags, and so on. We can go to the next one. Okay, here we're talking about the judges that we have and their duties in the municipal court. I do want to point out by saying both Judge Laren Barnes-Wiggins and Judge Tracy Moran are wonderful judges. They are judges I have worked for quite some time. The prior court I came from, I worked for them there as well. When I say they're great, they don't just prosecute cases. They kind of educate and teach defendants when they're there, why they're there, and try to get them back on the right track. Their responsibilities include presiding over cases, determining guilt or innocence, sentencing, issuing warrants, conducting hearings. You can go to the next one. Managing the docket. When we say managing the docket, though, because the clerk's office does kind of put the docket together, it's more so managing the cases while they're in court, making sure everybody's taken care of, advising personnel, guiding court staff. They help out with the policy and procedures. I say help out because a lot of times, such as last year when legislation put out a new rule on failure to appear procedures, I had to come up with a policy for our court to follow that would allow us to continue in a manner that we were. But in other words, let me back up. So the new law stated we could no longer require somebody to actually pay before they get their license back after they've missed court and they were suspended. Now it requires us to give them at least one opportunity to lift that suspension and bring them back in court. I had to come up with the policy of how we were going to do that. And then I take that to the judges and make sure that, you know, it is within line of court policies and state laws. And so we kind of work together with that. They do handle staff oversight. They are the liaison between city government, meaning city council, other judicial and entities. We have part-time. Judge Wiggins is our chief judge. And I'm hesitant on saying some of these things because she's part-time. And she comes in for court, and I have access to reach out to her and call her as much as I need to, but she lets me run the court as the court administrator, as the court clerk. Like I said, I've worked with her for quite some time, so we're kind of on the same page where she understands my integrity with the laws and what I can and can't do. And if there's something that I'm not certain of, I do reach out to her. We have had instances where there was a conflict of interest. With Judge Wiggins, I had that in another court, but with Solicitor Kester, he's our prosecutor. We recently had a case where he could not work on it. So the judge is very aware of those conflicts and how to handle them. And they also they also do continuing education. Every year, the judges are required to get hours, just as I am required to get training hours. We can go on. Okay, this comes to me, court administrator, Stephanie Capers. So this slide and the next couple of slides, the one that talks about deputy clerk and court clerk, is all combined of what I do as the one-stop shop. My duties include the overall management of the court, making sure the court sessions are scheduled every year, the calendar is scheduled every year, making sure the financial oversight of the courts are taken care of. In other words, the collection of fines, fees, managing the court budget, and preparing reports. Right now, I'm in the process of putting together the case count that's annually required for municipal courts. I am the liaison between the judge, city officials, police department, probation office, Georgia Bureau of Investigation, that's GBI. With GBI, we are required to every 3 years have an audit. So we're required to maintain certain training guidelines. It's hard to explain all of this and not miss any of it. Training guidelines, like today, I got notification that, and I'm not sure if you know this, Chief, but GBI put out a new user agreement. So I actually had to print that out, sign it, and send it back to them to get it signed by them. These are requirements we have to do in order to keep our system. The system we use with them is the one that we actually do, as Chief said, the background checks. I don't do the background, but I do have to pull histories for court. The judge has to be aware of, before sentencing, how many times maybe someone has had a driver license suspended, because if it's more than 3 times in a municipal court, you have to bind it up to Superior Court. I mentioned policy implementation. We can go to the next slide. Case processing, citations. So these would be duties of a court clerk. As I mentioned, and I appreciate the promotion to court administrator because it is a one-stop shop. I'm doing not only the court clerk's duties as well as a court administrator's duties by managing the court. If it was broken down, and we talk about annexation, and this is something that we would have to look at for the court as cases, as the citation count gets higher. We would also want to look at additional court sessions, and that's something that I would actually be involved with as well. But once that happens, we would break down the duties where the court clerks and deputy clerks would be responsible for putting the cases together, which is something that I am doing now. You put the cases together and you then properly dispose of the case, meaning it may go on probation, it may go, may get closed, or it may be reset for another court date or bound up to state court. Those are the everyday operational things that a deputy or court clerk would do, as a court administrator would continue to supervise and manage the court. We also do open records requests. I don't have that on here, but I wanted to mention that because when Ned talked about it earlier, we do the same, and we have to follow the guidelines, of course, the 3 business days. And as he mentioned, it's easier to provide these documents when things are digitalized. And since I have been here, I have been scanning court tickets. I'm trying to think of the date. It was probably about 18 months ago that I got the scanner, and I started at that point. So anything new, any new citation from then, you could actually pull it up in our court software and see the citation there and any associated documents of that case file. This job would also include reporting dispositions to Department of Driver Services and GCIC. There is what's called a criminal history, CH. Chief, help me out. What is that acronym? Okay, so it
Which
is.
acronym is that?
Say it again.
Which acronym is that?
Criminal history. The C. What is it? That's the problem. I can't remember the acronym.
Oh.
It's a criminal history system where after the court has processed in court, we have to go back in. So basically, when someone stopped for driving while license suspended, in some instances, they will be taken to jail and be arrested and be fingerprinted. There are fingerprintable offenses where they have to be fingerprinted. Once that ticket goes through court and that adjudication has been completed, whether it's guilty or nolo, you have to go back into that person's history and notate that, so that any other agency that stops that person and pulls them up and sees that charge on there, they also see what happens in the court. So that's something that this job also would handle, but I'm doing all of that, as I mentioned, at this time. Record keeping, public interactions, of course, I have the window. I do handle everybody that comes in. Most of the time they're coming in the citation, to pay a citation, to get certified dispositions, or there's sometimes attorneys dropping off their entry of appearance. We can move on to the next one, which will include some additional responsibilities. So Ms. Robinson, who we have talked about earlier, works with Mr. Kendrick, facilities manager. She also works with the court as a support clerk. She has taken over the position that Ned used to help me with, where she's taking the payments in court, she's resetting people, and she's checking them in when they come in. She's also learning how to do all the other items in court as she gets available time. She's helping me right now with going through and reorganizing and storing all the current citations we have. I'm really appreciative to have her because we're getting a lot done in that manner. So her functions not only include the 3 major items, the check-in, payments, and rescheduling, but it's any other duty in the court that she's available to help with. I'm not sure. I'm ready for the next one. If there is one, I'm not sure there is. Oh, yes. I remember what it is. Other judicial roles. So of course, the court's not made up just of the clerks and the judges. We have a court bailiff, which, as Chief mentioned earlier, they are the Pine Lake Police Department officers. And there is one who is there all the time. I call him my main bailiff, and that's Officer Jordan. He's responsible, of course, for the security in the courtroom. The whole police department is for the security in the courtroom and surrounding areas, and maintaining order. There's court reporters and interpreters. Now, municipal court doesn't always use a court reporter. I have in my line of work once before, I had an instance where a court reporter had to come in. A court reporter is someone who actually transcribes the court session. We're doing that by way of recording, audio recording. So if somebody does want to know what happened with that court session, they can come in and get a copy of that audio recording. Interpreters are individuals that come in, of course, to interpret a different language for that defendant. Solicitor, our solicitor is Jonathan Kester. He has been here quite a while. It's my understanding he was our public defender prior to taking the solicitor position, but he is the individual that prosecutes cases for the city. Public defender. Now, I have to admit, when I got here, we did not have a public defender. We were, every now and then, when someone would request one, we would have someone come in and fill in. So I'm happy to announce we do have a public defender on hand. And her name is Ansley Sluss, and she provides, of course, defense for the defendants. Probation officers. So probation officers supervise. So when someone is in court, there's several ways you can go on probation. If you're in court and you can't post the fine that your that your case has been adjudicated with, you have options to go on probation. Probation, there's two types. There's a pay-only probation where you could take just 30 days to make that payment, or there is supervised probation where sometimes the judge will order that as well, and it comes with some of the statutes where you actually have to go on probation for 6 months or so. It's also an alternative to incarceration. They monitor community service. And I'm trying to think, there's something else they do recently. They also monitor driver's educational classes. Sometimes a judge will order someone to take a driver's educational class and put them on probation until they got that completed. I'm ready for the next one. Actually, that was it. If you can go back down just a little bit, I do want to explain in the essence of municipal courts. You know, the staff are the operational backbone of the judicial process, managing everything from initial paperwork and scheduling to financial transactions and record maintenance. We ensure court operates fairly, efficiently, and in compliance with the law. I had also taken a couple of notes from listening to everybody. It's hard to go last because everything everybody else says you wanted to say. So there's just a few other things that I wanted to point out with the court. I actually covered it. The court's job is not to help one side win. It's more to make sure the process is fair for everyone. That was just something I kind of got from everybody else explaining how their job pretty much helps the community. A lot of times you feel like the court is just prosecuting or so, but as the court administrator, we do try to make sure that everything is done fairly and ethically. And at this time, I am open for questions if anyone has any.
But Councilmember Torrent has one.
Yes.
No, I do. So first of all, let me say, Ms. Capers, you do an outstanding job. I had the opportunity to sit through the court process with a friend a few months ago, and it is run with dignity and respect and even kindness, I would say. I've been through I've seen other court procedures, and people are treated like criminals. And in our little court, everyone is treated as a human being. They're talked to, kindly. Even like the prosecutor, when he's talking about what is going to go before and like his recommendations, is willing to like work with people. Our Judge Moran is fantastic as far as like talking to people about how this happened, why this happened, what their options are, and hearing what they have to say. So kudos on all of that. My only question is about probation.
Mhm.
And I know that's not exactly something that we can fix today, but is there any way that we could look at our probation process? Because even if you do like community service,
Mhm.
that counts as probation. So if you're doing community service in lieu of a fine,
Sure.
then you still have to pay $50 a month for the online probation service. And I didn't know if maybe if you thought or knew of any better solution. I know it's hard, so we're so small.
Right. So and that's not really a solution that the court, so the reason that is the judge can only give a 30-day grace period before probation fees have to be charged, because that's the way they actually get paid. The city does not pay them. They're paid off of the fines and fees that if a probation period goes longer than 30 days, they start collecting there. So if that community service was done within that first 30 days, they would have never saw that $50 or $49. Does that answer that question?
It does. It does. Also, it'd be nice if we could figure out some way to do like a covered portico because, the people lining up to get inside if it rains or anything. So I would like to see something like that. But thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Everyone should go and check out our court system.
Yes, and I
in
do
action.
want everyone to do that as well. I'm sorry, I did want to point that out, that court is open to anyone that wants to come and sit through a session and just watch how it's done. Anyone else? No.
I have a question, please. First, I do want to say I definitely want to get to a court day soon. I've been trying to make that happen on my schedule. I just had a question. It's really more just letting everybody know that I'm interested in this. I think it's too big of a conversation for today. But you mentioned earlier that people don't always realize that a traffic ticket is a summons, right? And so then that can kind of lead to like snowballing effects, right, of the implications of missing the court date and all of that. So I just want to register my interest in like looking at ways we can try to like get better communication. I don't know what we have control over, but like on the website, on the tickets themselves, like I just feel like that's a problem that could be impacted in some small ways. So just I'm interested. I think it's a multi-departmental thing. But I would really love to just contribute to that.
I appreciate that, and I agree. And just to really quickly say, some of the things that I think might help in that manner is, geez, I'm not throwing you under the bus or anything, but just some of the communication that the officers give sometimes. Like they come into court with that impression that if I just bring this or even to the window, they'll bring me their registration after getting it fixed, and thinking that was just going to resolve the citation. I mean, when they call me, I try to educate them. Of course, legally, I cannot give any advice. Court clerk's not allowed to advise them to call a specific attorney. I can tell them to call an attorney and maybe consult with an attorney, but I can't give them the name of an attorney.
Right.
We do have limitations to what we can do, but it's like you said, it starts with everybody as a community.
Yeah. So I just think we have a lot of like small little ways. I just think any possible piece that we can contribute as a city would be really useful.
I agree.
So thank you.
Anyone else?
I'm going to say a couple things. One is, Stephanie, I miss seeing you up at City Hall. I know you have your new setup, and it's just not the same. I never get to see you anymore, so I need to remember to stop by and say hello to you.
Thank you. Yes.
I appreciate the care that you do and the seriousness in which you do your job, because I think when I go around the state and mention Pine Lake, we still have a reputation.
Mhm.
And I think whether you know it or not, you're doing marketing and PR for us by the way you do your job. And combating that reputation, because we still are known as a speed trap town.
Yeah. Every time I go to my clerk trainings, I hear it at least once. Yes.
And the great irony is we never had a radar gun,
Wow.
nor did we ever do speeding tickets. It was for paper tags, but we still have a reputation. So again, I appreciate that. Whether you know it or not, you're helping combat that. And I think that's really vital. For those who don't know the history, at one time we were writing over $1 million in traffic citations on that little quarter mile of Rockbridge Road. That was before Chief Green, and that was where the reputation came from. And again, we still deal with it, and we still need to work on our brand. And so every little interaction you have, Stephanie, helps that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I just want to spotlight something. Chief dropped a little comment there in the general chat regarding the community service initiative. Take a look when you get a chance.
Without supervision, felony probation, remand, $200 service hours to the city. Great people, no incidents. I want to touch on that as well, because Ned, you mentioned the program that I'm familiar with as well, with the community service. I am interested in that, but one thing we do have to keep in mind with the court is anyone that does volunteer in the court, they're going to have to be fingerprinted, and they have to go through security and awareness training. So, I mean, I don't know.
Oh yeah, I should clarify. I was talking about an intern program through local colleges. But yeah, we would talk before they would get their hands on any records. It's the same for the records out of City Hall.
Okay.
Not to the same degree with the security specific awareness training, but
I still think it's worth it, though. There's a lot of work that can still be done. So.
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
Anything else? I always feel like I'm the boring one. I mean,
it gives me an opportunity to thank all of the staff. We purposely let everybody do their own thing, and I think the diversity of the presenters and the presentations. But I'm as the city manager, and I guess technically your supervisor, I couldn't be prouder. Everybody's done a great job in your own way. So let's move on to the final presentation, and that will be by Finance, Stephen Mayer.
Thanks, Stanley. Hello, everyone. My name is Stephen. I was at the meeting. Well, I was at the past two meetings, but the last one was virtual. So I had the chance to speak to you guys about, some of the findings we had in 24 at the January meeting. So that's who I am. I'm a consultant with Sumter Consulting, who's been engaged with you guys since maybe September or October of last year. I know Paul came in as the acting finance director, did a great job. He's the one who put the finance section together, but obviously I'll go through it today. We're in the middle of a transition where I think I'm going to take more of a prominent role. So you'll see more of me as the months come, and I really look forward to it. And this orientation is just as much as an educational day for me as it is for some of you. So keep that in mind as I go through this. And yeah, maybe I should give you a little bit of background. Is that okay, Stanley? I mean, I know we have half an hour, but
yes, absolutely.
Okay. So I'm a CPA. I'm an accountant. I've been in the government industry, accounting and finance, for maybe 6.5 years now. Almost 7, really. I've been an auditor, financial auditor with the state. I've been an accounting manager for DeKalb County School District. And I've also been a finance director. That's what I do now. So I spend time with different cities doing stuff like this. So again, good to be here, and let's just hop into it. Okay, so finance is split into 5 divisions or functions. That's the way Paul broke it out, and I agree with it based on what I've seen so far. These functions include accounting, budgeting, treasury and investments, debt service, as well as enterprise resource planning. The overall mission of the department is to handle public funds with the utmost care and integrity, and to put those funds to their highest and best use. I think that's an excellent mission. I agree with that. I think it's important to note that we do not do this alone. Finance cannot do this alone. This is something that requires collaboration with city council, city manager, and city staff, but we are an important piece to that. The main goals are to assure both short-term liquidity and long-term sustainability. Short-term liquidity meaning we can pay our ongoing obligations. Long-term sustainability meaning the city being able to operate and serve citizens well into the future. We achieve these goals through the execution of the city's budget, and we do that while keeping in mind the overall mission of the city, as well as city council's direction. You can scroll down, Ned. So starting with the first function is accounting. Accounting is responsible for the processing of payments to the city's vendors. It's responsible for recording all business transactions in the general ledger, which would include things like payments to vendors, payroll processing, receipts from our different revenue sources, such as property taxes, business licenses, and permits. And we're also responsible for year-end adjustments needed to convert the financial records into modified accrual-based accounting. We had, I think, 5 findings on this past year because we basically didn't have a year-end close procedure to make these adjustments, and we will moving forward. Accounting is responsible for reconciling the general ledger with bank statements, and this ensures the accuracy and completeness of the ledger itself. Finance is responsible for preparing financial reports, both internally and externally. Internally, that would be to departments, city managers, well, city council. External would be to auditors, Department of Audits and Accounts, Department of Community Affairs, and the federal government if we have a single audit, and as well to the public, having the financial statements and other SPLOST reports available for transparency purposes. Some of those reporting would include the budget to actual schedule, where you're just looking at what are our budget amounts versus what our actual expenditures are, as well as income statements and balance sheets. Go ahead. Okay, budgeting. Budgeting, we assist with the preparation and the execution of an annual operating and capital budget. The specific tasks are creating a budget schedule to ensure timeliness and compliance with state law and city ordinance. We work with departments on their specific operating and capital needs. This usually comes in the form of budget requests from the department heads and meetings, which can span several weeks. We perform revenue forecasts to estimate the amount of funding that's going to be available. We help assemble the budget document by compiling all the revenues and expenditures for all funds into an organized budget. We monitor the budget throughout the year, and we report on any potential overspending or revenue shortfalls. And if there are some, we recommend spending control and or budget amendments as needed. You can go down. Oh, maybe that's it. No, I'm sorry. There's 2 on 1. Yeah, you're good. The treasury part, you're good. Sorry, go back up. Go to treasury. I'm being confusing. Okay, so treasury services, cash and investment management. This is managing relationship with our bankers to ensure access to our funds. This is monitoring cash balances to ensure payments can be made to our vendors. This is setting up internal controls to ensure safety of cash, such as approvals required before payment. This is positive pay, check fraud protection, as well as access restrictions. For investments, we ensure idle funds are earning interest to help offset inflationary costs while making sure the investments are not tied up for too long. It's really a balance between access of funds for use and earning interest while the funds sit idle. I know that we have some capital projects funds through SPLOST that are not currently earning enough interest. And I think in the near future, we're hoping to move these funds to something like Georgia Fund 1 so that we can take advantage of the balance that we have. Okay, go ahead, Ned. So debt management. Some projects require a borrowing of funds, which will be paid back over time. Typically when a project needs to be taken on or a capital asset needs to be purchased, but the funding isn't available immediately. The city's long-term debt currently are some revenue bonds, which were issued back in 2009, and some leased vehicles for both public works and public safety. Well, I should say leased vehicles and equipment. I think the vehicles for public safety, we have some leased equipment with public works. Also in debt management, we'd give advice and or recommend any new debt needed for capital projects or equipment. And we're responsible for the debt service after debt has been issued, which is the principal and interest payments paid during the life of that debt. And last, but certainly not least, is the enterprise resource planning. So we are responsible for overseeing the ERP system, as it's commonly known. ERP systems, they integrate the different modules and functional areas. The purpose is to gain efficiencies as opposed to being in separate software systems. And finance should be evaluating the current system and make sure it's being used to the full capacity and give recommendations on when it is time for an upgrade. And that is all I have for finance. I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys have.
Stephen, since you're here, just really quick, do we know when the 2025 audit is going to be like posted? I know like the 2024 one just happened, so not trying to rush, but just to get a sense of the timing.
No, we should, I don't know, rush. We should aim for lofty goals. It's due by June 30th. I know that we're a little behind on accounting and bank reconciliation. So I think that is step one. It's hard to give I don't want to give an estimate and then just be wrong, but the goal is always to submit them on time. But given our delay in 2024, I plan to ask the Department of Audits for a 6-month extension, just so we remain compliant. And I'll need to check. So you can ask for extensions, but you can only do it for 2 years in a row, and then they just reject you. And so I know we asked for an extension on this one. I need to look and see if they did for 23. If they didn't, obviously we'll get an extension, and if they did, then we cannot. Regardless, I think we're aiming for June 30th, and that's what we're hoping for. So I don't think we would need a 6-month extension. I mean, if we don't meet June 30th, I would hope to be July or August. You know, I'm so new, I don't know what the records look like, but I feel confident that we'll figure it out.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So if no further questions and comments, and you all know by now that we're always available, it doesn't require a format such as this. Anytime that you need to meet with me individually or as a pair, we welcome that. I can say the same thing for departments, or if you want to meet with a couple of us together or singularly with departments. I encourage the exchange of information, and given we've got a young council, not just the 3 new members, but the 2 senior members, and they'll be the first ones to tell you. So there's a lot that goes on in our cycle of daily activities, and the work that we do directly on behalf of the council for you to make the best policy decisions fall on top of that. And we're not complaining, but I think it's obvious, being a small staff, there's a lot that's going on. And I have told you all, because you got started in this job, the new council members, long before January 1, 2026. This is a staff to be proud of. They are committed, they're professional, They're loyal. I will tell you, they are trustworthy. And in time, I think you will realize that I'm not just talking. But we appreciate your time to sit through this 4 hours, a lot of information, and we look forward to continuing the conversation. And thank you to everyone who participated, including our neighbors.
Thank you. I think now Bernard's going to recite Invictus for us, and then we'll end the call.
Out of the night that cover me, black as a pit from pole to pole. I thank the gods, whatever gods may be, my unconquerable soul. In the pale place, I tell you, man, you put me on the spot, Ned. I knew it.
Yeah, he wasn't reading.
You put me on the spot, Ned. I could do it.
It was beautiful. It was beautiful.
Next council meeting, Mr. Kendrick.
Yes, you can continue.
All right, Mr. Kendrick, I'm gonna let the bros know that you didn't say it all.
Well, thank you, everyone. I think it's a wrap.
Thanks, y'all. Really appreciate it.
Have a good evening, and y'all pay attention to the weather because we're gonna get some cold temperatures, some knee knockers this weekend.
All right.
Thank you,
everyone.
Take
Thank
care,
you,
everybody.
sir.
Good job.